I forget how incredible.
How did he make that?
It's so
It was
good.
practical. Cameron Kennedy
So good.
actually did that and shot a real pumpkin burning out.
That's incredible.
That's so
So
cool.
shout out to Cameron Kennedy for absolutely killing the game. Of course, welcome to Kind of Funny's In Review. I'm Tim Geddes, and I'm joined by It's Christmas in October, Joey Noel.
I can't believe you've never seen Point Break.
Never.
We have to do Swayze in review. We
But
have to be on the
Joey,
same
I
team
know.
about
We need to
this.
start with Dirty Dancing and with
Yeah.
Ghost.
Even Snowbike Mike has seen it.
Oh,
See, Elise, that's the thing. That's the thing that's the most criminal about this is that we went through a whole rigmarole with Snowbike Mike, training him up, showing him this, watching him cry with the beautiful bromance that is the connection of Keanu Reeves and P. Swayze, and Tim stayed silent. He didn't say a damn word. I just learned this today, and I am shocked.
We gotta go
Thoroughly
back.
shocked.
We can do it again. There's no stopping us. Isn't that right, producer/seducer Nick Scarpa?
Tim, you want to watch Point Break right now? I'm sure this entire crew of people will sit through it with you. Let's do it. Let's go.
I love that. The crew is large today, everybody. In the spare bedroom studio right now, we have me, Nick, and Joey. But joining us from the beautiful, sunny Los Angeles, we have Chris Anka. How you
Evil
doing?
ends tonight.
It does. It does. Finally. And James and Elise Willems.
Oh, it's great to be back in the spare bedroom. It's a different view than we had before, but it still looks great. It still looks awesome.
How's
Loving the
Nick's
set.
back end doing?
Yeah, can you see what I'm looking at on my screen, James?
Oh, yeah. Oh, let me see. Wait, no, which way? This way? Which way?
There.
That way, that's the one. Over here, yeah. Right shoulder. There you go.
Pretty good.
Pretty good, not bad.
You
Oh.
should close those tabs,
Oh,
man.
shoot. That was from last night.
Of course, this is Kind of Funny's In Review, where each and every week we get together to rank, review, and recap different movie franchises. This is a little late because we had to launch the studio, so we're doing Halloween, and it'll be coming out on Halloween. That's kind of a fun thing. Next week, we're going to be doing our Black Panther rewatch to lead into the following week's Black Panther Wakanda Forever review. Very excited for all of that. You can get it all on youtube.com/kindoffunny or roosterteeth.com. You could also get it as a podcast by searching your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny In Review, and we'll be right there for you. If you wanted to get the show ad-free and watch live as we record it, though, you got to go to patreon.com/kindoffunny, just like our Patreon producers, Al Tribesman, Molecule, and Fargo Brady have all done. We appreciate you all so very much. Today, we're brought to you by Chime, Rocket Money, and Wonderies, the official The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power podcast. But we'll talk about that later. We got to get right into it, y'all. Halloween ends. All right. Fun little tidbit for you. It uses the same blue font that Halloween 3 Season of the Witch did.
Oh.
And Halloween Kills used the same font that the original Halloween 2 did.
Oh.
And Halloween 2018 used the same font as
Original home.
the original 1978 Halloween. Fun little facts for everybody out there. This one had a runtime of 1 hour, 51 minutes. It was released on October 14th, 2022, in theaters and on Peacock. But you can only watch it for 60 days on Peacock. So Evil's running out of time for you to watch it on Peacock.
Evil dies tonight, but after tonight, it's going to go over to Amazon Prime.
This is once again directed by David Gordon Green. He directed the dramas George Washington, All the Real Girls, and Snow Angels before going over to the comedy side of things with Pineapple Express, Your Highness, and The Sitter. And then he did the most recent Halloween series that we've been reviewing here.
Did he do all three of them?
He did. He did.
Interesting.
Music is done by John Carpenter, Cody Carpenter, his son, and Daniel Davies, once again coming back from the last movie. This one had a budget of $33 million, which is a lot more than last year's movie and the 2018 one. 2018 was 15 mil.
They spent
Last year was 20
A
mil.
lot of craft service, probably.
Reshoots. A lot of reshoots
Yeah,
for this one.
Oh,
Box office, though, so far, $85 million. It's kind of crushing.
But didn't it
Despite
drop
being
like
on-
80%?
Huge percent, yes,
Yeah.
yes. But it was doing really well.
Well, that's going to be because of Peacock, right? Like when it comes out on VOD, of course.
But I mean, it
it's gonna
can't
drop.
day and date.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
It's
So
Maybe they were just like, it's
reviews.
almost not Halloween. Who wants to watch Halloween Ends on November 1st? Forget it. We're all watching It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
yes. Now, I want to get into our thoughts on this movie, and I want to start with one of my favorite people in the world, Elise Willems, because I called her last week to schedule this, and I was like, yo, can you do this time? Can you do this day? And she's like, I'm going to be real with you. I stopped watching the movie. And I want to know, Elise, what is the update? Did you finish the movie, and what are your thoughts?
When the launch of the spare bedroom was happening, it coincided with the release of Halloween Ends, and I think I was a really aggressive proponent for how do we sneak away from this? How do we all watch Halloween Ends together as is tradition? And I am so glad that that did not happen because woof. I apologize to anybody that this movie resonated with them and they enjoyed it. I sincerely apologize. I am, no auteur myself. However, I just this did not hit for me. And James and I were watching it, and I just was blown away by the backlash against Halloween Kills, the way that people spoke of Halloween Kills, and then I haven't seen any of that discourse for this movie, which I think is not as nearly entertaining to watch as Halloween Kills. Excuse me, sir, but Halloween Kills at least had me riveted in my seat. And I will say this to you all today, good sirs and madams, etc. To me, a horror movie, if it's not being scary, it should be one of two other things. It should be, at the very least, have some intrigue. So like The Ring, for example, which there's a mystery. She's trying to unfold this mystery, unraveling, unpacking. Or funny, Cabin in the Woods, Irreverent, Scream, very funny. And to me, this movie was not being scary, but it was not doing either of those other things for me at any point. And I think it has an interesting premise. I don't want to spoil it, but the old...
You can spoil. Full spoilers, go for it.
Yeah, we're full spoilers, go for it.
The idea that somebody else absorbs Michael Myers' essence and takes over that mantle, interesting premise. We've seen it a little bit. The new Chucky TV show we've seen,
of course,
the spirit of a killer jumping into a doll's body. So why not the spirit of a man going into another man's body? Interesting premise. I feel bad because Chris Anka, I swear I hope you didn't like this movie. Give me a sign, Chris. Give me a sign. Did you like it or not? I don't know. I feel bad dumping on it. But yeah, I couldn't bring myself to finish it. And then I texted you, Joey, but I've since watched Marcel the Shell with Shoes on twice.
Different to an interview.
And I'd rather watch Marcel the Shell with Shoes 4 more times before having to sit down and finish this.
No,
film.
wait, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
Are we throwing shade at Marcel the Shell with Shoes, or is that a movie we like?
No.
Yeah, it was a weird comparison.
Yeah, because you were like, I'd rather watch this movie that I loved 4 more times than this movie that I hated.
It's one of the best movies of the year. I
okay.
beg of you,
I'm looking
go
forward
watch
to
this film.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Shout out to Jenny Slate.
We had
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
complete erasure of any what's her name
Judy
Madonna
Greer?
Good speech.
complete Judy Greer erasure of this. Come on,
It's just
people.
the
Why are
one
we so
shot of
reeling and
her
doing that?
picture
It's been a few
as
years.
the
I'm
background on
sure
her
we'll
phone.
get into it, but Tim, when you called me, I almost walked off a bridge because I said I can't say no to Tim Gettysburg. How the hell am I going to do this in review when I can't finish this goddamn movie?
Tough choice.
I pitched to her.
Tough
I was
choice.
like, the thing is, we have so many people here. Like, we'll have seen it, and also you get to hear Nick tell you what happens. That's true. So you probably get the best or worst version of this. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. But I want to go next to Chris Anka. What did you think of this movie?
So I saw a tweet review that said, this is a good movie, just not a good sequel. And I'll change that a little bit. It's an okay movie, but not a good sequel. Like, it's a really good indie romance movie that has nothing to do with Halloween or Michael Myers. He's barely a character in this. And, like, I get what they're going for with the whole first act. And it's just like you jump the shark so fast of like a guy is kind of being ostracized a little bit to like, oh, he's just going to become a serial killer. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't know what your thesis is. And the fact that we're wrapping up this trilogy and like Michael's in it for like maybe 10 minutes is just like a complete travesty. So it's like, I like what their intent was, and they're kind of like diverging with like Season of the Witch, where like it's going to kind of be a different movie. But like you've built this trilogy as like the ending of a trilogy. You need to land it. You can't just like ignore. It feels like they had nothing else to say about the movie, and I'm like, then just don't make this movie. Just end it with Halloween Kills.
Was
I don't
it just
know.
me, Chris, or did it feel like they didn't watch the previous movies?
Yeah, like it's honestly shocking that it's just like the same crew for all 3 movies, because I'm like, it feels like they made the first movie, and then like a fan made the second movie, and then someone who completely irrelevant made the 3rd movie.
Yeah, so some
And it's
facts.
all actually the same people.
So originally, Kills and Ends were supposed to be shot back to back, and then because of COVID, that didn't happen. So like this movie was just like essentially doomed from the start because It ended
Yeah.
up there was so many reshoots. There was so much like scheduling problems to get things done.
Doom does
They like
interesting term.
there's a completely different end to this movie that exists that they shot, and like what we got is like very different than what people have been seeing in test screenings. And
Yeah.
stuff.
Huh.
Yeah.
The ends is like the only part of this movie I actually genuinely like. I
I
like the
think so,
final
too.
confrontation between Laurie and Michael. I thought that was a really good like 15-minute like, oh cool, just like get rid of the rest of the hour and 30 minutes. Just give me that after Halloween Kills. Have it be the same night. Like I don't know.
Joey, what'd you think?
I really did not like this movie. I'm kind of with everyone. I think it's the most interesting to look at, the trilogy as a whole and how absolutely incoherent it is as a trilogy because it doesn't make any sense. I think 1 is so good. Then you have 2, which has like a lot of fun kills and fun moments. Like the opening with the firefighter stuff, I think is still so cool. And then to focus the last installment not at all on Michael Myers or even Laurie, I think is like a huge miss for the story. I think that this story could have been a really interesting like 4th installment of like Michael's dead and now it's Laurie dealing with like and her the tension between her and her granddaughter of like how like Michael's dead, how come you can't let go of like his spirit moving into this boy? Like I think that could have been a little bit more interesting in terms of a story direction. But yeah, for the first 40 minutes I was like, is this the wrong movie? Like I just was so confused. And yeah, it is like a big jump between like this trauma, which also the Jamie Lee Curtis. Have you guys seen the supercut of her saying trauma over and over? Trauma. Over and over again about this movie.
I won't stand for this. I won't
It's
stand for
so-
anyone making fun of
ALC?
Jamie Lee Curtis
Oh.
in my presence.
It is endearingly. I think I love it.
Yes, she's the best.
Yeah. And yeah, I was so confused the whole time about how this is how it ends. I don't know. I will say I watched it I watched bits and pieces of it again this morning. And I like the new guy. What is his name? Corey? I like him, but I just think that this doesn't fit as like a third puzzle piece, personally.
Nick Scarpino.
I found this movie very interesting, and I was not bored. And it was definitely, when you look at it under the guise of, is this a solid Halloween movie, like a third installment of the Halloween series? Absolutely not. But I think, honestly, a lot of the criticism I would have of this movie is not of this movie, it's the movie that came before it. I think if Halloween Kills had been a stronger second act, I think this movie would have played a lot better. Because it's smaller, it's a lot more nuanced, and it ends the themes that the first two set up, I think, nicely. I actually like the fact that it's just a kind of a weird, fucked up romance between these two people who have suffered a lot of trauma. I like that there's a metaphor in there somewhere. And I like that the movie was a lot smaller. Honestly, I don't need another movie where Michael Myers walks around stocks and gorily kills everyone. If you want that, there's like 30 movies in the series that we can go back and watch. I like that they tried something new. I like that, I forget the actress's name, but the actor that played Allison, I thought she was phenomenal. I think they had good chemistry. It was a little weird, to Joey's point, that he was just like, I'm fine, I'm misunderstood. And then one day it's like, these fucking band geeks push me one more time. I'm going
Also,
ham
the
on
fact
them.
that they were in high school and he was like 23, I also think is very
Well,
funny.
here's what I'm going to say. That was hilarious. But also, it's unbelievable to me that they were like, it should be a bunch of jocks, right? A bunch of jocks like driving past, and then someone's like, no. What if it's band geeks?
What if it's the drum line?
What if it's the drum line that
Hell
are just
yeah.
bullying this guy? And I was like, man, I mean, guys, listen. When you see something that's world changing, when you know that it's going to be different from here on out, you recognize that moment. And I paused it and I woke my wife up and I was like, we're finally getting our comeuppance. The band geeks are finally starting to rule. I liked the story from Laurie's perspective. I like where we found her. I like that it was about sort of letting go of that past trauma and like embracing life. And I think she's got great chemistry with the guy that plays Frank. I thought that the two leads had good chemistry. And I thought it was a weird, kind of interesting indie movie that shouldn't have been called Halloween. They should have called it anything else, but the fact that it is a Halloween movie, it just kind of sticks out in the series as a sore thumb. Having said that, I enjoyed it. I don't think it's a great movie, but I got through it. I was like, huh. It was well directed, and I like the style of it, and I think that goes a long way as well.
James.
I'm gonna agree with the majority here and say that incoherent is probably the best word that I could come up with to describe this trilogy, but especially this film. I think that it is it's so wild, the idea of being like, let's make a Halloween movie that's the end of this trilogy that doesn't have Michael Myers in it, without, but not like free of Michael Myers. Like it's still Michael Myers influence, but it just doesn't make any sense. I also want to point out that it's not like we were watching the movie and Elise got up and walked away. she went to sleep.
I just closed my
She
eyes.
went to sleep, but that happens all the time, and often I will stop and ask, do you want me to pause it? She consciously turned to me and said, do not, and then closed her eyes and then went to sleep. So it wasn't a walkout necessarily, but you were done.
Did you see the essence of Danny McBride's humor in it? So from what I was getting,
So that's what I was gonna say to Nick's thing. Like, there's great ideas in this movie.
Yeah.
Great concepts. The idea of someone inheriting this mantle. Every single execution of that idea was horrific, in my opinion. Like, turning it on its head of that, like, it's not the jocks, it's the marching band, is very funny. In high school, I had a marching band that demanded that they get their own varsity jackets and, like, walked around like they were hot shit, but they were still marching band, Nick.
We had those
and,
jackets.
yeah.
Our
So-
letters were just
so
a little
it's-
bit smaller than everyone else's letters, but it's okay. We'll take the win. We'll take the win.
It's one of those things that like fly on the wall of the room where Danny and David are discussing their ideas for this movie. Probably was amazing. You know, some guy comes in, he does this stuff, everything changes. But in terms of an actual movie, it was mostly boring, unsatisfying, and it's weird. I even, when we talked through this, you know, Chris brought up the great point of like what the first Halloween, the original, represents. You know, like it represents that stranger coming into suburbia
Right.
and like influence everything. I was like, I never thought of that before. And then as we talked through the Halloween from a couple years ago, we were like, oh, it's like all the embodiment of trauma. I don't know what these last two movies have meant at all. It felt like. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say. I mean, I'll disagree because I think that the first one, yes, to that point. The second one, I think, was like that mob mentality, and that was the like of how ramped up people get when they're all together and nobody's thinking clearly. And I like that there's one line in this movie that stuck out with me where she was like, I think it was the sister of the woman who had been attacked in the other one, was like, you're Michael Myers, you warded him off, he went away, and the town needed to find someone to throw all their hate and their anger into, and they chose my son. Or they chose, I think it was a mom actually that said that.
Yeah,
They chose my son. And I was like, that's what this is all about, right? It's all about how, for lack of a better, like if we don't have a monster, we tend to find one, and we tend to find something that's like, who's the worst person? We'll blame that person for all of our things. And this kid was that sort of sin eater for all of it. And then it was an interesting, again, albeit not that well explored at all, concept of like what makes someone a monster. Is it that everyone thinks you're a monster, so you just go, fuck it, I'm going to lean into this? Or is it past trauma? Or is it that after being hammered by these band geeks your entire life, you finally snap? I don't know.
It's like 3 weeks though.
Listen, man, when the drum line comes down on you guys,
When the
it's-
Saints come
it's
marching
tough.
in, let me tell you.
That's what I think is interesting about these movies, though, is because they probably had these conversations. That's why
Yeah.
it would probably a really interesting writer's room. And then when they actually started putting words on the page, none of it's there. They sacrificed all of Halloween Kills that could represent that with weird chanting
it
things
was-
that
yeah.
like force you to swallow the disbelief all the way down, and also just like the firefighting stuff is cool, but that's kind of all it is. It's like, oh, well, instead of making a point with this movie, we just went with cool. And in this one, instead of making the point that we got so jazzed about when we were coming up with the idea, we just kind of like thought the concept was fun. And so we just like played with, like, I don't know. It's everything is like going for a bunt, and then it dings off the bat, hits the batter in the shin, and then the batter goes down. You know, like
There's an interesting aspect too of the movie where I got halfway through and I was like, man, it even seems like Michael Myers is tired of being in this movie. Like he was just like tired. He was like, a guy, I'm just trying to live, bro. Don't come into my
He's
lair.
just been
Don't
living in
even.
the sewers for 4 years,
And he's
just
okay with
chilling.
it.
I know.
What's he
The most
eating?
evil person in the world has just been hanging out underground for 4 years.
But I
I don't
love
know what
that.
he's been doing.
I mean, maybe I'm reading way too much into that, but I love the low key sort of like message behind that of like, guys, I don't even want. I'm like I'm cool. Like you guys are making me come
Yeah.
out. All your shit's happening. I'm just trying to be in my own little world here. And for whatever reason, this community is dragging me back into this mess.
See, my brother
which exactly
and I,
what happens.
my brother and I were talking about this on the drive into work today. Of like, what was going on with that, and like why was there was the homeless guy, and like he was like, yo, like why did you get to come out? Why are you alive? Like implying that there's been others, and like with the whole eye transfer situation that we'll talk about later. Like I get the vibe that for the past 4 years, Michael's been kind of like getting people in and almost like looking for an evil enough body to
Like a
possess.
successor.
Yeah.
And like then he's just kind of been weak down there, kind of like
It's
trying
like a
to find
weakness
the
thing.
right level of power, which is I don't
No
like that
vitamin
at all.
D.
I mean, if you
I
want to
don't like
read
it at all.
crazy into it, it's the old concept of like the more people believe in him, the more people are scared of him, the more power he has. And so
Yeah.
after the whole town like was like, yo, we got to pump the brakes on this, he lost all of his power, and then it took this one kid kind of coming back in to like ramp him up. But even then, he doesn't really do that much in this movie.
No.
That's the funny thing about it though is he finally finds the right. If that is the theory, he finds the right one. He gets him to go out and commit these acts. The kid comes back and is like, "You're weak, old man,"
Yeah.
and beats and basically shoves him to the ground, beats
So
him up,
weird.
and then Michael Myers
Breaks
is like,
his head.
"Arr, "What have I made?" Like, and
But I mean, obviously the question remains, and Tim, I want to get to your feelings on this as well. The question remains, like, does Corey come back? Are we going to get another Halloween series where this kid is now the unstoppable evil?
Probably.
You would imagine so, right? Because we saw him get his neck cut open and his head snapped, but until you pulverize him in an industrial car smasher, you don't know if he's really got it all.
Yeah.
Also, we might get Michael Myers as a goo, some sort of gelatinous sludge that comes and kills people. Wouldn't put it
Shape.
past him. The
I
shape.
know it wasn't really like cogent to the movie at large, but one of my favorite scenes, because I went back and I cherry picked a few to rewatch in Halloween Kills, was the Big John Little John, which I think
Yeah.
Great.
maybe we all agree crowd pleaser fun scene maybe felt a little bit awkward in the movie itself. But in what I saw of this movie before I willingly went to sleep, I wasn't picking up on anything like that. I wasn't picking up on any fun and games.
No.
And I just question for all of you. Did you feel like it got there at any point?
I mean, tonally for me, this movie was closer to Drive than it was to a Halloween movie. We had talked about that before we went live, but this movie felt like Drive. And then at the end of it, if Ryan Gosling turned around and Michael Myers was just in the car with him, it was a lot of style over. That the vibe of this was more like, let's just do this crazy indie like fever dream romantic comedy between these two people that may or may not kill each other. Oh, and there's this dude with a mask in there as well. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I'm definitely in line with the majority here as well, where I will say I didn't hate this movie and I did enjoy watching it a lot, but I do think it hit a point where the enjoyment came less from the craft of the film itself and more from me being like, what are they going to do next? Because like it was just, they kept making choices that I just did not see coming. So I was entertained. Legitimately, from beginning to end, I was entertained. I watched it in 2 chunks, just because it got late the first night, and I was thinking about it the whole next day of like, what are they about to do next? And then when we started watching the second half, I was like, I was totally in. But despite being in, I don't think that they kind of satisfied me in terms of like where they took any of the plot, honestly. But the biggest thing is in, going to Chris's point about the good movie, bad sequel thing or whatever it was. It's like, I'm just so upset at how bad a sequel this is. Like, and Joey was saying this, but if this was the next iteration of the franchise after we've ended it already, like getting the actual finale of the Laurie Strode, Michael Myers storyline, and then moving it on of, okay, cool, now there's this Corey guy and all that, I'd be a lot more into it. There's elements of this movie, we keep saying it, like that are interesting and they're there. I don't think they added up. They could have added up. Like the bones are there where it's like, this could tell a compelling story with compelling characters and be a good Halloween movie. But Halloween Ends needed to be a different movie than what this was. Even following up Kills, I think especially following up Kills, where we get Halloween 2018 and Kills and they take place on the same night. The time jump in this seems like a necessity as opposed to a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that sucks because it just, they almost are like telling us like, hey, because of the COVID production stuff, like there's just certain things we have to do. So we're just going to jump ahead so we can kind of play fast and loose with like what happened in between. And we're not even going to fill in the gaps most of the time. We're just going to kind of like move forward. This is what's happening now. There's this new guy that's a little misunderstood. And at least they didn't do the whole, oh man, there's clearly 2 Michael Myers. we don't know who they are because they're wearing the mask. Like from the beginning, we know it's Corey. So it's
Yeah.
like, I thought that was an interesting choice because a lot of these horror movies, there's like a copycat killer or whatever.
Yeah.
So I like that they didn't go that direction. But this is the lowest kill count for Michael Myers in any Halloween film with just 3. Just 3 for Michael Myers. In this
Good. I
movie.
mean, you got at a certain point, you gotta moderate.
Yeah.
You grow as a human being, and you only kill 3 people as opposed to 20. My question for you, Tim, is how great was it seeing Kyle Richards just chewing up
look,
scenery in the back, just having
this
a great
movie
time?
had a distinct lack of 2 things it needed more of. One, the Halloween theme. They fucked up the music in this movie.
And the
They only
piano
did it
tingles.
twice,
when
right?
it when it hits in the beginning, like after the kid dies, which I like
Awesome.
that. That was pretty fucking
Awesome.
cool.
Punted
But
off.
this kid dies.
That kid
and then
sucked. Can we all agree this kid sucked?
I'm like, all
Oh,
right.
that was the first note I wrote about this movie.
This
It's
kid
like,
sucked.
I hate
Jeremy
this
sucks.
Yeah,
kid.
fuck this kid for sure. But I love that. But then throughout the rest of the movie, it's like there was never the moment. There was
There's
never
no
the like
tension in this movie.
exactly. It just kind of just keeps going. It's like I was waiting for even during the final confrontation between Laurie and Michael. It's like give me something epic. And Halloween Kills, like James was saying, is like they kind of went for cool over anything. I at least appreciated that because I thought that they achieved the cool. But this needed to kind of take that and like give us something. We didn't get it. And we also did not get nearly enough Kyle Richards.
But what we got was so great because she's
But
just
she's a bartender now.
She's just there, just being like, "You should do this thing." She's like everyone's true north, which I love, and also just doling out advice that totally backfired. I will say, as on a note of the soundtrack, I actually liked the soundtrack a lot because it was like a weird, dreamy, sort of romantic version of the horror themes, and I was like, I'm kind of into this. I don't know. Like when they're riding the motorcycle, and I was like, this
So
dude
much
is,
motorcycle.
I was like, this dude is damaged, but these two are like, there's a heat between them. And also, man, let me tell you one thing right now. Jamie Lee Curtis and the guy that plays Frank, who's an actor, I don't remember his name, they got to stay out of the frozen food section, man, because they could melt all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's hot between
That is
them.
true.
Holy
That is
shit.
true.
Where's that movie where they go check out the cherry blossoms? I don't want to watch that one. Let's take a word from our sponsors.
Are you wasting money on subscriptions? 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about. Do you know how much your subscriptions really cost? Well, most Americans think they spend around $80 a month on subscriptions when the actual total is closer to more than $200. That's right, you could be wasting hundreds of dollars each month on subscriptions you don't even know about. There's this app Tim loves using that takes care of all of that for him. It's called Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. The app shows all your subscriptions in one place and then cancels for you whatever you don't still want. Tim loves it, it's great, you should use it. Rocket Money can even find subscriptions you didn't even know you were still paying for. You may even find that you've been double charged for a subscription. To cancel a subscription, all you have to do is press cancel and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Get rid of useless subscriptions with Rocket Money now. Go to rocketmoney.com/kindafunny. Seriously, it could save you hundreds of dollars per year. Cancel your unnecessary subscriptions right now at rocketmoney.com/kindafunny. That's rocketmoney.com/kindafunny. Go deeper into the canals of Numenor, the mines of Khazad-dûm, and more with the official The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power podcast. Host Felicia Day and several special guests provide an inside look at the groundbreaking series and what it took to bring Middle-earth to life. Each episode of the official podcast features exclusive interviews with the series showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, including the very first full breakdown of the incredible season finale. Felicia goes behind the scenes with the cast and crew to bring you jaw-dropping stories and Easter eggs you won't want to miss. Watch The Rings of Power on Prime Video and listen to all 8 episodes of the official The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power podcast for free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app now. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Is it checking up on your credit score? Didn't think so. At Chime, that's exactly what they do. Their members see an increase of 30 points on average, with payday up to 2 days early and fee-free overdrafts up to $200. So start your credit journey with Chime. Sign up takes only 2 minutes and it doesn't affect your credit score. Get started at chime.com/kfgames. That's chime.com/kfgames. The Chime Credit Builder Visa Credit Card is issued by Stride Bank NA, pursuant to the license from Visa USA Chime checking account and $200 qualifying direct deposit required to apply for the secured Chime Credit Builder Visa Credit Card. Regular on-time payment history can have a positive effect on your credit score. Impact to your score may vary, and some user scores may not improve. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees may apply except at MoneyPass ATMs in a 7-Eleven or any Allpoint or Visa Plus Alliance ATM. So, again, start your credit journey with Chime. Sign up takes only 2 minutes, doesn't affect your credit score. Get started at chime.com/kfgames. That's chime.com/kfgames.
Now?
Oh, is that real? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, no, that's good. You good on that,
I don't know
Barrett?
if we could do that. I just thought it was a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, let's get to the plot.
Sing it, Jay.
I don't know what this is.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Not safe
Halloween
anymore.
ends.
He used to be safe.
Yeah.
Halloween ends. It's Haddonfield, Illinois. Halloween night 2019. And I'm like, oh, somebody's going to get killed.
So
Corey.
how many years is it later then?
So, from my understanding, that'd be a year later.
Okay.
Because it was 2018.
3. Oh, Wiki says 3.
Well, no.
Total.
So,
Total. Michael
Yeah.
Myers went on his killing spree in
that's right,
2018,
2018.
and then in 2019, the following year, was when the Corey kid
babysitter.
murdered that poor boy, the poor innocent boy.
Yes.
and then
The
3 years
really
later, the
annoying
rest of the movie.
innocent boy.
I think you could. I think if they just made the rest of this movie also in 2019, and like this is the following Halloween, and everyone's like ramping up of like what's gonna happen, and this kid goes off. You could have had this whole movie, but like you have the tension of like this is the first Halloween, no one knows what's happening.
Yeah.
The fact that the movie then jumps another 3 years of like nothing happened. I'm like, oh,
Mm.
so
Well,
like what's
they
the
had
stakes?
like that one montage of like, and people started killing themselves by hanging themselves from trees in regular, normal murders, and everyone blamed Michael Myers. And I was like, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't really seem at
I
all.
want that to be
but
I want that to be the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not the time jump. Like that's the movie to me. That's the interesting of like the actual impact of that trauma to this town, where now everyone's seeing the boogeyman everywhere. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
But not like Lori moved on.
I agree.
Well,
And
okay.
I think that would have been an interesting take because we would have seen that and been in that as opposed to just literally Lori narrating it through her memoirs, which I like.
Yeah.
I like that as a device. I like that because really this is the closure on the Laurie Strode sort of story, right? I mean, she's literally closing the book at the end on her chapter of what's happening here. But her narrating being like, and this dude right here was like a drive-by shooting or something. That was Michael Myers also. I'm like, I don't think he uses guns, guys. We know. We have empirical proof that he's not the gun guy. But either way, we're back over in the mansion, this cool 500-story mansion.
Wait, should we talk about this for a second? Because, like, what the hell was up with the fact that we see the mom and she, like, looks up and there's this crazy spiral staircase, whatever. And then they go into a kitchen that looks like it is, like, the most, like, small, suburban, shitty kitchen I've ever seen.
The house is all stairs. It's like
it's like Harry Potter.
Like or I was gonna say it's
The
like
Full House?
no,
Winchester
those are
Mystery
Gozers
House.
at the top.
Either way, Corey the dork comes over to babysit last minute because he's a dork and has nothing better to do on Halloween night and likes to garden. Mom tells Corey all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. And then Corey says, it's Halloween, we're going to have a good time. And Jeremy's like, I hate you. I'm a shitty little spoiled kid. Turns out this kid is a fucking dickhole. And he tells Corey that Michael Myers only kills babysitters and not kids. So Corey decides to help himself to some chocolate milk instead of a high. Important note, he was like, I could have a beer right now, but I choose a gentleman's drink. Chocolate milk.
And he does throughout the movie.
He likes chocolate milk a lot, man. That's
What the fuck was that as like a weird
I'm just gonna
character
throw it
trait? Like,
Hey,
I'm gonna
it's
throw it out.
delicious.
Anyone
he's
who
not
really
wrong.
likes chocolate
Good
milk,
for the bones.
psychopath. Of course, he can't find the kid anywhere. The kid's playing I think important note here. He looks down and the knife's gone. I think.
Yeah.
You're like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's gonna come back into play. But then of course Jeremy screams, and then Corey runs up to the attic to try to help himself. He grabs a bread knife, which I will say right now is the most underrated of all knives, and goes.
But I also feel like it's the least like impactful.
Well, you got a
self-defense.
saw, Joey. You
I
got a
know,
saw.
But like I feel
You
it's not
smear.
you don't stab with it. I feel like you need to stab.
You're right. The stabbing action is minus 40, but the saw action is like a plus 20. So you're good to go.
That's gonna be really great in like a
Joe,
murder situation. I can't
They
wait
come
to
at
just
you,
hack
you
at
defend
someone.
with one arm, you hack into the arm, and you saw.
Yeah.
Anyway,
much
I have a
time.
question about this scene, and this is nitpicky, but I feel like with a movie like this, it's the nitpicks is the point. Like, I feel like the babysitter overreacted being locked in. This room.
100%.
Like,
Oh,
even
yeah.
him going to kick the door down felt a little like it. They acted as if Michael Myers was in the house and they knew that, but he was just kind of in a room for a second. There's no actual fear factor going on, and he's just freaking the fuck out and starts kicking this door to the point that he accidentally kills this kid. Like,
So that's interesting because I thought, because you don't see the kid die. You see the kind of door hit his head, and then there's a break, and then the kid falls down. I thought they were going to go back and show him at the end of the movie, like kicking the door down and the kid there, and him like grabbing the fucking kid, and, like throwing him off the thing, and like having the homicidal tendencies. But it
would've been
turns
more
out,
interesting.
yeah, I thought because the kid had like a scrape, like he had a
Dang.
cut on his head and shit like that, and I was like, oh, he had a knife in his hand. I thought maybe we were this guy was kind of deranged to begin with, and that was going to be the twist at the end. But no, it just turns out that the space between the railing of the stairs, the attic door, and his foot is just a half an inch because this kid gets fucking hurled.
Punted.
Well, and his kick is so powerful.
It's powerful. I mean, the kid probably weighs maybe only 30 pounds or 40 pounds, but I'll tell you what, right now, I, for one, super glad that Jeremy didn't have to come back in this because that kid is a piece of shit.
Dude, I missed the kid from 2018 and Kills. The little neighbor
Oh,
kid.
yeah. He was fun.
That kid was funny as shit.
He's in
showed
this.
up. He
Yeah, he's
popped
in this.
in for a moment.
Just
walking down
for
the
that
street.
quick moment. I need more of him. Lots more of him.
Well, that's especially when you think about the fact that we had a great kid. Remember how
Yeah.
much everyone loved that kid,
10 out of
loved
10
him,
kid.
and then they're like, "We're gonna completely ruin the good kid ratio in this franchise."
Of course, the mom and dad come home and freak out, and she looks up at Corey, who's up in the stairs, and she's like, "You're a murderer," and she screams bloody murder, and we smash cut into DJ. Drop me that nasty beat,
And
we
it's
get it.
awesome.
And it's so good.
And we see the pumpkins
So
just
good.
And we go
morphing.
inside. No, important. No, we go inside of the pumpkin
Yeah.
this time.
I'll,
Which is, of
I'll
course,
say
we're getting
this:
inside the killer's head.
watching it, having no idea, just watching it completely blank, I thought maybe I got the wrong movie until it hits. Like I was like, what movie? I think we turned to each other and were like, what is this? And then it hit Halloween, and listen, it's a great sting, and it gets you hyped, even if you were at the grocery store or whatever. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, they're out of pinto beans, and then the music hits. Like anything works, right?
Like, fuck it, I'll do black beans. Let's go.
Like it always works, but it feels like it sets the tone for the whole movie being wrong.
Yes.
Like everything about this movie is wrong because you're like, oh, this. Okay, I guess it's Halloween, but that didn't feel anything like Halloween. But you're saying it's Halloween. I don't know. It's weird, like putting a wrapping on something that isn't right. You know.
I wish that we would have gotten an introduction to Corey at some other point in this series. Like, if he had some minor role in the first one, so he didn't meet the granddaughter, and that still was like a plot point. But I feel like the fact that you just walk into this movie blindly with characters that you've never met before feels very strange.
See, I kind of dug it because it's a twist. It's a red herring, right? They're totally doing something crazy, and because what you expected was that he was going to kick the door down. When he kicked it down, the door was going to swing open, and Michael Myers was going to be there to stab him in the fucking head or whatever, right? But instead, this kid is just the killer, and you're like, oh, this is going to be something different and hopefully very unique and fulfilling.
Hopefully there's a lot of motorcycles.
Hopefully, there's a lot of cool Kawasaki motorcycles in it. We come out of the intro scene, the credit scene, and Jamie Lee's there, and she's narrating the opening. Gives a little recap of what happened so far, which just largely revolves around Michael Myers killing people and Laurie Strode living that sweet recluse life. Important note: Judy Greer still dead, and the whole thing took a solid 12.
Hard to come back from that.
Tough one.
One thing, a note I wrote down here is there's graffiti as she's given the VO about explaining the whole situation. There's big graffiti that says "Love lives today," and I'm like, there was someone out there that's
Lord.
like, "Evil dies tonight, no more. Love lives today."
It's like that guy that did the honey bear fucking things during the pandemic, and you're
Exactly,
like, get out of
yeah.
here, get out of here, guy. Stop trying to be
I like
important.
the honey bears.
Yeah, until they were everywhere, and then I was like, okay, now people are
I think
trying
they're
to.
canceled, Joey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. it took over a lot of local art and to make a lot of the local artists upset.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry for bringing it up, everyone. Everyone cut that part out. Anyway, the whole thing took a solid toll on the people of Haddonfield, like an infection, and lots of people killed themselves. But hey, Kyle is not one of them. Kyle still rocking this. And I love that they're just homies now. Before she was like, oh, Kyle, like I remember you. You're the little girl that survived this horrible traumatic experience. Now you're a successful business owner,
With
and
the
you come
nose
over to
ring.
hang out and do arts and crafts with me. And I really respect that. And good for Kyle Richards. She did a great job in this.
Did you take over the bar from Halloween Kills?
Yes,
Yeah.
you did. Why
That's
not?
That's what it seemed like,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
We're like, we don't care.
Yeah, it's great. Also love that Barstool character. In this. She's, of course, writing her memoirs, which I think is pretty neat. She's trying to literally close the chapter on this part of her life. And then Corey rides through Haddonfield on his bike, and this place is a mess.
One thing. Oh, just the bike. It's not the
Regular
motorcycle
bike.
part. There's the part where he's like a mechanic.
Yeah,
right
getting there.
And he's wearing the suit, and I'm like, oh, it's Michael Myers' outfit.
Yeah, Brody.
Is it just me? Does Corey also not seem like he lives in a different decade than everyone else?
100%.
Is that just me?
Well,
I thought the opening was like a period, like 80s piece. And I was like, is there like a weird time jump? But
I
I'm
think
not
that's sort of that was done on purpose to make it feel timeless. to make it feel like it was tied into the rest of the series. Corey has the hair from like 1985, and then he of course
No
rides the
smartphone.
motorcycle that's like from 1985. So everything's like from that era. It reminds me a lot of I watched It Follows over the weekend, and they purposely
Good
did the
one.
production design to throw you off from being rooted in any sort of time periods. The TVs were all CRTs. There was no cell phones. There was one piece of technology, all that stuff, which I think is pretty cool. I get that vibe in this from him. Great head of hair though. Great hairline. On Corey. Anyway, Corey goes to I guess he didn't do too much jail time for killing this kid because I guess the judge hated Jeremy too. Corey works in the car shop. Guess he didn't go to college. His boss gives him an old motorcycle, which he can get to work on time. Also, I guess Ronald, the boss, also his stepdad.
His stepdad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
And the
choice.
nicest person in town, nicest guy in town.
Just
he got a bad go of it. Really, I wasn't happy about what happened.
He also gave a random band kid a gun.
Nobody's perfect.
Chris, I'm gonna.
He just hands this 16-year-old a shotgun. Go, I think Michael Myers is outside. I'm like, I don't know about that, kid.
First off, we don't know what position this guy held in his band. I'd like to think of him as the drum major. And if you cannot trust your local drum major, Chris, who can you trust?
Well, it could be trombone, right? Holding a trombone could be very similar to
a
the stock
shotgun?
of a shotgun.
I mean,
that
when
is also incredibly accurate.
was born for this,
It's
yeah.
the only shotgun that fires like a sniper rifle bullet.
Through his head. Of course, Doug pulls over Allison in a creepy scene where he's a cop and he creeps her out because he wants to date her, even though he's like 20 years older than she is.
Did you know? Did you
He
recognize
He
him?
had dated her.
Oh, they
He
had
had
gone out
dated
like
her.
once or twice. Yeah.
I recognized.
Yeah,
I
and she goes
recognized
to
the
them,
cop.
yeah.
Oh, did you recognize the cop?
not really. I
Yeah.
mean, contextually, yeah, but
Is it Anthony Michael Hall in disguise?
No.
Oh.
It was the main guy from Day 5.
I don't know what that
oh
movie is.
shit.
Everyone's
Yeah.
just going, what? What 5?
Oh wow, that's right. That's so fun.
Yeah.
We cut over to the liquor store where a bunch of band geeks decide to bully Corey. Oh, how the world has changed. Thankfully, Lori is there to break it up, and they call the pair of them Freak Show and Psycho. And she's like, am I the Psycho or are you the Freak Show? I don't know. Of course, as they go, and she gives Corey a fucking razor blade and goes, you want me to do it or you got to do it? And they slash
I love
their
that.
tires. I love it.
That felt like the most Lori moment that we got in the entire movie.
This is another thing. As we're talking through it, sorry to jump in, but this
No, go
is
for it.
something that bothers me about it. Is I think the bones here at the start of the movie are real good, But
I
when
agree.
it was supposed to go from Act 1 to Act 2, then it completely falls off.
Yeah, because
So-
to your point here, James, like I feel like Lori should have been the mentor character to Corey.
Yeah.
And then he should have like turned bad from that. Like, she taught him the wrong way.
Or not turned bad, or just been like she saves him, and he has to fight this bigger evil with Allison, and both of them have to literally fight their past trauma. Would have been interesting, but also done before. What we haven't seen before is a kid look into Michael Myers' eyes and be like, "Give me the power." Cool. Anyway, oh, thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Listen, man, it's the recap juice. I have to have
Got it.
Have to have it. Lori takes Corey to
Luis,
the
can you go grab me a Diet Coke? Oh.
Do you want one?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Lori, of course, Corey in amongst it smashed his yoo-hoo into his hand and cut his hand. So of course,
The
Lori's
chocolate
like,
milk thing is weird. I didn't
It's
think
fucking weird. Like throughout this movie, there's just a lot of chocolate.
He likes
milk.
chocolate milk.
feels like, you like Kevin. Put one thing in this movie, and he's like, the kid's really into chocolate milk. It's like, okay.
I was watching, I think it was Men in Black 3, where
Nice.
yeah, it's
Why?
because I love the Men in Black series. It's
So you
a
just
great
went with
series.
3.
The one with Brolin?
Yeah, well, I started with 3, and then I went to 1, and then I watched half of 2, and I was like, wow, that was just a near miss on 2. But there's a moment in it where because he's experiencing a time anomaly, he craves chocolate milk. And I thought about that. I was like, maybe Corey is experiencing a time
Maybe.
anomaly. Turns
The
out,
most
no. He's just like,
unexpected crossover of life.
man, I love that third movie with Josh Brolin. He did a great
He's a
job.
multiverse Michael Myers that grew up and didn't do the killing early. So
Exactly. Thank you, Chris. Anyway, Lori takes him to the hospital where who should work there, of course, her granddaughter, Allison. And she's assisting with Dr. I forgot the guy's name, but it comes up later. And he's just a dick. This guy's a dick.
Can I jump in real quick because
Sure.
this is amazing. I had seen a tweet like earlier that day when we were watching this that was like when I was watching someone. I wish I could credit them, but they said I was watching A Knight's Tale, and the main leads have like only 2 scenes. They share like altogether 90 seconds of actual dialogue with each other, but are somehow like in love. And the person who wrote this tweet is like, that is how men write love stories. Whereas you take like a lot of women authors and you see they unfold over months and months and sometimes years based on like these ongoing interaction, complex relationships that result in love. And it's like, so if you ever want to see the difference between men writing love and women writing love, look for these things. And in this scene, like he gets a stitch, he goes, ow, he knocks over a bunch of stuff. She sees him and they're in love. And I was like, there is nothing romantic about what transpired here. There's no indicator of either of their personalities. They just know that they love each other because it was written by men.
I don't know, man. I feel like there's not much more to say about love than you have shit in your back. We should do something sometime. What?
I'll dial it back. I'll talk about a moment that I did like in this scene, though, where the doctor is clearly being just a misogynist prick to Allison. And Corey, in an attempt to stand up and, like, I don't know, kind of save her, white knight her a little bit, goes, hey, you don't have to put up with that. And she goes, I've dealt with worse. And I love that moment for Allison because she's like, motherfucker, I have literally fought evil incarnate. I think I could take a dog.
Dad died. My mom died.
My mom died. My dad
boyfriend died. Most of my friends
I've
died.
had to stab multiple people in my life. I'm good, bro. Don't worry about it. I think what they were trying to set up here was that he was sort of a kindred spirit because she was looked at differently in the town because of her past trauma as well. And they get to that later where
Oh, yeah. They made that clear.
they do.
Well,
but
They
yeah.
explained that to us.
it just wasn't very. I agree that the romance here was a little. It was convenient for the sake of the plot,
And it was
not necessarily well set up.
the bare minimum character setup so that he has someone to like revenge kill later in the movie.
Yeah, which
Like,
is hilarious
just
because
so
Deb got the
minimal.
promotion. Oh, Nurse Deb. We'll get to you in a second. Corey offers to fix her muffler, and they kind of hit it off. And she asks him out, and he's like, I don't know about that. Anyway, Lori and Lindsay encourage her to go out and go for Corey, and then she invites him to a cool Halloween party. And he's like, I don't have a costume. And she's like, well, just figure it the fuck out, guy. Allison stops by to have her car worked on, and Corey's like, I'll teach you how to ride this cool motorcycle. But the scene, unfortunately, is interrupted when the band geek and his dad come, and he's like, oh, man, I'm reminded that there are just assholes out there, and my life is a living hell. Lori runs into ex-Sheriff Frank, and again, these two, just magnetism between the two of them.
I love how much you love them.
I love it. Well, first off, they've been in 3 movies together, so they obviously have the chemistry that you have two natural actors have, having been around each other for that long. Great. If I have one criticism of this, we'll just say it: perfect film. Frank not utilized enough. He's only in 2 scenes in this movie.
Right. Needs more Frank.
Love that guy.
I do agree.
Love that guy.
He has
Loved
almost
him.
equal amount of screen time as Michael Myers.
It's very true. I've loved this man ever since I saw him in the greatest movie ever made, Armageddon. All hail.
Oh, that's your
Armageddon.
touchstone. I always think
yeah.
of Remember the Titans.
Great film as well.
How many
Let's see.
kills did he have in this movie? It's funny,
I
like,
remember the Titans.
I mean, he killed my heart with the cherry blossom story. He talks about cherry blossoms and something like that, and it's all just a metaphor for their blossoming love, hopefully. Lori leaves on a high, but soon brought down by the sister of one of Michael's victims from the previous movie, who and apparently everyone this half the town just blames Lori for Michael, like for.
I
guess,
liked it.
I
ramping up
kind of
Michael.
loved this moment.
Yeah, it was a good
Yeah.
moment.
Like it was such a cool thing of like, because like Lori, I mean, we've seen her like, especially going from 2018 to where we're at now. I think they went a little too far, but like she was such an interesting character in 2018 that we just didn't expect. I think the reason we like that movie so much is, hey, Lori from the original Halloween is now bunkered down with like Home Alone style. Like we're about to fuck up Michael. She is prepared. She's obsessed with this idea, and seeing that like her kind of turn into that evil, and then the town have to deal with that and like blame her. I think is a
Yeah.
really cool idea.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but-
but again, to James' earlier point, there's a lot of great ideas being thrown around here. Execution,
Yeah, it is
not
like
as great, but
full circle for her to go from the victim to then people like holding her
Blaming her.
accountable
Yeah.
for all of this.
yeah.
and again,
terrorizing
something
the
that
town.
definitely happens in real life, right?
Yeah,
Definitely people look
100%.
for excuses for why things happen and they go, we got to have someone to blame. And that's what this movie's all about. It's finding that target for your rage, your anxiety, your fears, all these things, and what that does to those people. Anyway, Corey and Allison head to Lindsay's bar now. And one of Corey's friends tries to like throw some shade at her, but Kyle steps in because Kyle's like, if there's one person that knows about shade being thrown at her, it's me. And I will not stand for that in my bar. And I appreciate that. And then they dance. harder than any two people I've ever danced before in my
God,
life.
to the point that he's on the ground. I'm like, is he okay? Is there a seizure happening? Like,
Yeah.
does he need help?
Yeah.
It was weird.
This is the point again where I kind of checked in mentally and I said, "What am I watching?" Like
Yeah.
I kept doing the thing where I'm like, "Am I watching the right one?" Like I'm confused.
And then, of course, by happenstance, Jeremy's mom just happens to be in the bar, and lo and behold, she is not happy that Corey is having fun. Shocker. And she's like, "You are a monster. You killed my son." And he ends up running out of the bar.
Not before being held back by Kyle Richards, just like the iconic meme that you see where she holds back Taylor and there's the cat on the other side of the table. There was also no cat in this movie. I feel wrong.
Should have been a cat. Should have been a cat.
Is that? Do you believe that was intentional?
It had to
Had
have
to.
been. It actually
So
had
that's
to have been.
some of the things that you were talking about that you maybe didn't notice. I had no idea.
Yeah, at least
Maybe
there's
humor in there,
subtlety
but
to
it's
this
all
film,
meme-based.
okay?
I believe you.
Not in theme by any means, but
No,
in
but in Kyle
references
Richards.
to Real
references.
Housewives.
Corey, of course, bolts. Allison follows, and they get into an argument. He blames her for taking him out. He should have just stayed in. She tries to relate to him. She's like, "Listen, we're exactly the same." He goes, "We're not the same. You're looked at as the hero. I'm looked at as a psycho babysitter, and that's just how it's always going to be." And then he runs over to the bridge, where who should catch up to him? This roving band of band nerds.
Dude, so this is, the band nerds is hilarious. But
The kid
in
with the
addition-
bullet is the least imposed. I'm like, dude, just punch this kid in the fucking face. People, they're tiny too. It's not like they're big.
Yeah.
They're all like short. I was just
And
punch
at
him in the
this
fucking
point,
face and walk away.
At this point, he's like 24, 25.
He's like 30. I think when he was the baby, I think what
He's
the,
20.
Jeremy said he was like
22 when he
27 or
was-
some shit.
He's 22 when he's
Yeah, so
babysitting.
what is it? 3 years later, then
Yeah.
she's 25 years old.
Still
I'm
being
like-
tormented by this crew.
I just
Still drinking his chocolate milk, which is great. But the other thing, besides the chocolate milk that was weird about Corey, is why do cars keep almost hitting him? Like, there are multiple
Oh,
scenes
at
in
the
this
very
movie
beginning, too, on
of
the
him
bike?
almost getting hit by
Yeah.
a car. And it's like, what are you trying to tell us about this? Like, it's none of the car almost hitting scenes needed to be in the film.
I have a theory on that.
Mhm.
I think it's because somebody watched this movie and was like, "Fuck, we forgot to make this
We
scary.
need jump scares.
We
Yeah.
need
That
some
actually is
level
probably what it
of
is.
jump scare in this." Occasionally, so people don't think this is just a really riveting drama about past
Riveting.
trauma. Anyway, the band bullies beat the shit out of him and throw him over the overpass and maybe kill him.
Jesus
And then
Christ.
Margot,
Which
one of the
is-
girls, is like, "You killed him." He's like, "That's not what I saw happen." And they just continue to hang out with each other.
That's the funniest thing about that is like how they're like, let's prank him by hanging the 90% of his body over this overpass. Oops, we dropped him. Like, oh no. It was like, that's a movie. A group of band kids getting together doing that and then having to deal with the consequences. Not so
James-
much pushing someone.
I want us to write a movie about band bullies, a roving group of band kids who are just going around terrorizing a town.
Yeah. Just addicted to drugs, anything to get the next high.
They just play trumpet and do smack.
Oh
Yeah.
God! Don't bring smack into this, Nick. But I love the transition to get us to this scene where the granddaughter like holds her hands out comically for him to like grab her and be like, I guess just to be like, no, we're together. And he like walks off to go eventually get thrown off the overpass, and she just kind of puts her hands on her forehead and looks up, and it transitions into like a full moon, and it's like, what is this movie? What do they think
Crazy
they're
as shit,
doing?
and I love it. Of course, after he gets thrown off and is unconscious, a homeless person watches as he gets dragged into a drain pipe, and it's creepy as shit.
It really is.
Let's see. The next day, he wakes up and.
Wait.
Oh, go ahead.
That's another thing. It's like so it's not even like he was like, I'm so tired of this place, and he wanders into the sewer and gets into trouble, right? Like Michael Myers was chatting with the homeless guy when someone fell like feet away from him, and he said, "Oh, maybe he's the one." And it just seems so weird how it got to that point. The better version is he falls off, he's pissed off or something, and then he goes into the sewer himself. He enters into Michael's world. But the fact that he got dragged in means that Michael Myers occasionally comes out when the moon is high to see if anyone falls over the overpass to drag them in to see if they have the potential to be him.
You're right, because I think the way it should have played out is he wakes up, gets spooked by the homeless guy, and then kills him.
Perfect.
And then goes,
Or
"Shit,
does
I
he,
died."
even just is like, oh, and then runs it. The only
Yeah.
place he has to go is
The
there.
hidey hole.
He's obviously tense, you know.
I will say the
I-
visual of him
I-
being dragged in was creepy as shit. Sorry, Elise, go ahead.
No, just what you said earlier, Nick, about how you wish that final shot of the movie was replaying that moment with the boy he was babysitting, and it turns out he actually did kill him. To me, would have, because this guy's accidentally killing so many people.
There's so many people.
He's in so many situations where he's.
I mean, at least I'll be honest with you.
having to
You'd be
kill someone.
surprised at how easily it is to accidentally kill someone.
Corey accidentally kills more people than Michael Myers kills in this movie.
It's true. It's true. Of course, Allison comes home mad. She tries to break the microwave, and Lori has a great line here where she's like, am I not allowed to be mad? She goes, you can absolutely be mad, but just be careful. It's addicting. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Don't
moment.
get
What's
mad,
what's
get
interesting too is Jamie Lee Curtis in these scenes, her outfit is also similar to the Michael Myers mechanic outfit thing. Like it's not the same, but like I do think that was like a choice for them to like kind of show that like yeah, like she like flirted with the evil side of things and like she's kind of pulling back. But I think it's weird that for her character, for her to be as removed from the Laurie we saw in the last couple movies of her being so scared and so like bunkered down. To now being like, you know what? I got jack-o'-lanterns. I'm okay with Halloween. Like I feel like her moving on from all this stuff, I'm totally okay with.
Yeah.
Her being like, I'm still going to support this holiday. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know, guys.
Well, I think
Yeah,
I think they tried to set it up like there was a couple lines where Allison's like, or maybe it was Corey talks about how she was trying to like have this facade for Allison to give her a normal life and was like kind of using that as therapy for herself, and it didn't quite work. There's a lot of those interesting little moments that kind of just come and go.
But it's
there's
like-
also another moment where Corey's like, you could have been Michael Myers. Like you looked at him, you could have taken the power, got evil and shit. I was like, damn, that's a fucking cool concept.
It
but
is.
We just kind of
yeah.
gloss over that.
But I just
right?
feel like if you're trying to, create some normalcy, it's like get real into Thanksgiving or something. Like you
Yeah.
can just.
I mean, I'm
skip
gonna
the
be
whole
honest
movie.
with you right now. If the most traumatic and horrifying experience of my life kept happening on Halloween in this one town, in this one house,
Why would you not leave?
you would sure as shit find me in another country
Go
on
to
that Halloween.
Australia.
Yeah, for
I-
sure.
she should-
or just the
she
next
should've
town
done-
over.
She should have done what Judy Greer did and just become all about Christmas.
Hell yeah, dude.
Which I think would be a really cool way to kind of bridge the two back. Like when Halloween starts, she's like, "Cool, I'm going to acknowledge it, but also like get ready for Christmas because
And then-
that's my way of dealing with this."
Corey's sequel series will just be called Christmas.
Ooh.
There you go.
Love it.
And
Love
it's
it.
Santa's the killer now. Corey wakes up in the sewer with some rats. He tries to bolt, but Michael grabs him by the throat to choke him out. And then moments before Corey goes unconscious, Michael stares lovingly into his eyes and sees all of his past trauma and the fact he's got the evil inside of him. And then they just become homies and they're best friends for life. As Corey escapes, the homeless man outside threatens him. He's like, you see Michael Myers, why did you get to come out? Whatever. And then Corey accidentally on purpose just stabs the guy to death. And then, guys,
Also, is
rookie
the-
maneuver. He throws the knife. I'm like, guys, you gotta take that knife, you gotta melt it down, make it into a little piece of jewelry. You keep it with you the rest of your life. That's why I wear necklaces.
Also weird that the homeless man knows that it's Michael Myers and like just
Oh,
doesn't say
yeah.
anything.
So my
ever?
theory on that was that like I think Michael Myers has been dragging people and killing people into his hole for years.
Don't say it like
And-
that.
Yeah, he's been dragging them into his hole. Yeah.
Chris, no.
And then, but he needs
Whoever
them.
enters
I-
Michael's hole never comes out.
But like, I think he wants them alive, and so I think that's why he waited for Corey to wake up. And then when Corey wakes up, he's like, "Oh, you're like me," and this is why the homeless guy was like, "Oh shit, like you're the only one who's actually made it back out."
Interesting.
But I still feel
'Cause
like
I think
that's so
Michael has
weird.
been doing this for a while.
Madeline Stanley in the chat says, yeah, there are missing posters all around. They talk
yeah.
about that on the radio, how people have gone missing.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I still think that that's so weird that you live in this town with Michael Myers and people are missing and they're like, and there's no action or it's just like, I guess this is the
I
thing that
guess
happens.
this is it. I mean, I think that they tried to write themselves out of that by being like, yeah, everything was being blamed on Michael till they realized it wasn't Michael. But it's like, but there are still people missing though. Like there's still stuff happening that's like, yeah.
Corey heads over to Lori's house and creeps her the hell out by hiding behind that bush, just like Michael did. He then apologizes to Alice and asks her to take a walk with him. He tells her that he killed someone, and then the scene ends. It's very strange.
Yo, straight up, what?
I killed someone. But at first I was like, did he just confess to killing the homeless person, or was he talking about Jeremy, which I assume he was
He's talking
talking
about the homeless. I think he's talking about
Yeah.
the homeless guy.
Was he? Because I thought he was like, hey, the reason why I'm at the way I am, and so scared of this town is because I killed someone back in the day, Jeremy. And she's like, I know. And he's like, I'm gonna come clean about this past trauma, because that starts them on like that sort of like being more open to each other. But it also could be construed as being like, see this blood on my hands? It's the blood
I think
of
it was the
man.
homeless
It's
guy.
definitely the homeless. Guy.
But why would Allison be okay with that? You want to have a follow-up question to that? Like,
No,
Huh?
I agree that it's a weird character moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway,
Because I think like the way that they talk about him is that like everyone knows that he's the guy, the killer babysitter.
well, Allison for sure knew
Yeah.
that he was, right? That's why she was like, I'm going to give this guy a chance because he's probably misunderstood. But I mean, kids, if you're watching at home and someone confesses to a murder, don't hang out with them for the rest of the day. Or maybe do hang out with them for the rest of the day, like make them think you're cool and then go to the cops immediately afterward. Don't be like that guy from fucking House of Dragon that's like, I won't stand for this, and then immediately leaves. You're like, bro, that's the guy. We got to hang you now.
Yeah,
We gotta hang
I
you.
like that guy. I
conflated
think
two
it's funny. I
characters.
have the Wikipedia open so I can just follow along, and it's funny because it does say, in a struggle, Corey stabs the man to death and flees. End paragraph. New paragraph. Corey and Allison go on a dinner date.
There's like a pop
man.
love song playing, and they're on the motorcycle, and it's like, wow.
Honestly, all of the motorcycle stuff reminds me so much of Grease too, weirdly, because there's
Damn it,
also a
Joey.
lot of like weird romantic motorcycle stuff there, and I'm like, maybe this movie isn't as bad as I thought, you know?
Same
What are the
vibe for
helmet
Grease,
laws
too.
in
also.
Illinois?
There are none.
But who knows? Maybe he's the time traveler from the 1980s, and there weren't helmet laws back then.
The chocolate
That's
milk
the thing
is the connection.
like the motorcycle stuff also just feels totally a different time. He's a man that has never known the internet, as far as I'm concerned with Corey. He does not have a smartphone.
He is embracing death, though.
Yeah.
It's true. That's the only way to embrace life. Let's see. He apologized to Allison as a snake walk. He takes her to the place where Jeremy died, which is like supposed to be. It's just very creepy, but I don't know if he meant that for that to be like a healing thing. Over at Corey's house, Corey's mom gives Lori shit for the town subbing out Michael Myers for Corey. And saying basically this town needed a monster, and when you drove Michael away, they chose my boy instead, which is a very salient point.
I also have like trouble believing that. Like,
Well,
clearly it was like an accident thing. Maybe I don't understand the like small town like mentality of this, but that also seems like a large jump to be like, oh, well, this he's clearly a killer, where it's like, it's clearly an accident.
Yeah.
I think the mom's also got
well,
some issues.
I think they're trying to like paint it like that now that Michael is a real thing, that someone can be that bad, that anyone can be Michael. So like even
Anyone
though there's no
can wear
evidence
the
that he
cape.
intentionally killed this child, they're like, oh, but he could be. Like everyone can be a Michael now. And I think they're like trying to play that up. Like, that's why the town's so paranoid, but then also like the town's super cavalier about it. So like you never really get like everyone has been like like weird about Corey this whole time because he might be a Michael, but there's also been no evidence of that in 3 years. And so like now that he ramps up all of a sudden, it just kind of comes out of nowhere.
Let's see. God, man, my eyes are starting to go on this one. Hey, here we go. They go over to the diner, and they have a little conversation where Corey's like, I got to get the fuck out of here. And Allison's like, I got to get out of this town too. And he goes, listen, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. If you tell me you want to burn it down, I'll light the match. And I'm like, man, let me get on that back of that motorcycle with you and stay away from the frozen food section because we could melt all this stuff.
I just want to know what the timeline is of this for them meeting, falling in love, and now they're running away together.
Love
I think it's been
goes.
3
It's
days.
not
I think
like
it's been 3 days.
this. It's not like
Young
this.
love, everyone. Somebody back in the day, James, somebody you saw a cutie, you were like, "What's up? What's up?" We're in love. We're in love for life. Next day, you break up and you're crying. That's how it goes when you're kids. These young 27-year-old kids who have careers. She has a career as a nurse. Interesting. This movie is just so. I gotta watch it again, man. I'm into it. Oh man! Then drunk Doug comes over with all of his cop friends, and this is the scariest scene of the entire movie because I was like, he walks back over, and I'm like, these guys are all cops, and this guy just stepped to him and threatened him. It's weird.
It is weird.
It's a freaky
They're all gonna be
scene.
waiting for him in the parking lot.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna beat the shit out of
I
him.
did too.
But that's not what happened. Corey gets loud with him, and he backs him down. And man, I hope these two. And
He
then
invited
this-
them over for a tart or something weird.
But then this was like a weird moment where I was like, Corey, this is his first moment where he's like, I'm going to like show who I'm becoming in
have the
public.
power.
Right? I've got this power, and I'm crazy, and I'm gonna fucking Michael Myers stab this guy right in the middle of this diner. I don't give a shit, right? But then Allison's like kind of like scared of it, but maybe into it. And my first instinct was like, are they gonna go on a killing spree together? Is
Yeah.
this gonna be a natural born killer's moment? Because if that was the case, I'd kind of be into it.
The folly y'all do.
Exactly. I'll follow you all to do. Exactly.
Nailed
Nailed
it.
it.
Thanks, guys. Corey gives her a ride home, and Allison invites him in. And he goes, "No, another night. I've got some killing to do." Doug follows him back to the underpass where Michael lives and tries to sneak up on a tent, but it turns out Corey had hidden the homeless man's body in there with a light of some sort.
Like, let's break down this
He
scene.
does have the
The
fun.
pomp and
Yes,
circumstance
thank
of it
you.
all. Yeah, like the whole setup. But put yourself in the mind of Doug, right?
Okay. I've always wanted to do this.
There's this man that you're
the cartoon or
suspicious
this character?
is a murderer.
Doug the Pug.
All right?
Uh-huh.
And you're going to follow this guy in the middle of the night into this little sewer hole.
Well, I don't think he thought he was a murderer. I thought he just wanted to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, okay.
It's still
maybe.
weird.
It is still,
It's still weird.
Well, Doug's
It's
not a very
still
well
weird.
adjusted.
Still
let's put-
weird.
Doug's
Doug's
not
also like a
bright, and
40-year-old
I think
man.
Doug's also got like toxic machismo.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he can. Whatever this is, I can handle it.
Let's not
Yeah.
forget that Doug was the character that pulled her over, and then proceeded to creep her the fuck out in her own car because she wouldn't go out on another date with him. Doug's not thinking straight here. Doug, there, right there. You look like,
Spoiled
if you're
man.
wearing
That
these
coming.
shorts with that sweater vest, you're a piece of shit right there. You're a
pervert.
toxic piece of shit. Anyway, I thought Doug
I
was
did
like
not expect to hear Nick Scarpino call Doug Funny a piece of shit.
POS, man.
POS.
Piece of shit. What a POS. Yeah, no, I just got that Doug was like, I'm going to follow this kid where he goes. When I have a chance, just beat the shit out of him for embarrassing me in front of this and hurting my masculinity. But he gets more than he bargained for because Corey's got a plan here. He lures Doug into the spider's web, into I'm sorry, Chris, what was he called this? Michael Myers' dark
Michael's hole.
Michael's hole.
Yeah, Michael.
And man, they just take turns killing the shit out of Doug. And I guess evil doesn't die tonight. Corey asks for Michael's help, and he says, "Show me how to do it." And then a weakened Michael grabs the rusty chef's knife and just starts stabbing Doug. And as he does, I kind of got the feeling that he was like stabbing Doug, and he was like powering up a little bit as he was doing it,
Yeah.
like he was getting a
Yeah.
little juice. And I was like, "That's kind of cool."
But
Actually.
show me
Doug's
how you
life
do this.
forcing.
Yeah.
My note I wrote there was, I hate how much I actually like this.
Yeah,
and I understand that's a
exactly.
me problem. Like, I should
No,
not
yeah.
like what they just did here, but I
problem.
did.
It's not a me
Yeah,
problem.
there
It's
are-
it's
Good-
weird because
good
again, I
storytelling.
think the stronger version of this movie is you see these things that Corey is doing, and you realize how maybe he's fighting back against this genuinely shitty community, right? And then at the end, you realize he's gone too far. But the movie doesn't hesitate to push him too far. It goes from him accidentally killing a homeless guy who pulled a knife on him, and then he's struggling with him, and the guy kind of falls on the knife, to him going to Michael Myers and saying, "Show me how to kill this guy," is like this movie is leaps.
It's a little
triple
leap.
jump.
It's a
of
little
films,
leap,
right?
for sure.
Like it's wild.
We could have had maybe 20 more minutes in there to show him sort of declining a little bit, but even then, it's like it's still gonna come out of fucking left field. But then he heads over to Allison's house and he asks her a very poignant question, and the one that I wish they had explored a little bit more. Which he goes, "Hey, did Michael let you live, or did you escape? Like, did he see something in you and let you live?" And she's like, "No, man, he killed my mom. I had to like fight for my life." And he's like, "Oh, okay, cool. You want to bang now?" And she's like, "Yeah, let's go upstairs and bang."
Well, there's also a weird thing when he walks in where it looks like he just sniffs her boobs, and I don't really understand what that part of.
I must have been
That's
taking notes
normal.
at that point.
I
That's
didn't
3-day
notice
love,
that.
baby.
That's normal.
That's how people in
Yeah.
Haddonfield say hello.
Well, two things I want to say. Speaking of boobs, I loved Jamie Lee Curtis's line where she's just like, "You just need to find someone that makes you want to rip off your shirt, show them your fucking tits, and say, 'Let's go.'" And I'm like, yes, absolutely, JLC. But then the other thing I want to bring up, speaking of going upstairs to have sex, is unfortunately, I'm sorry I have to do this to everybody, but there is a podcast within a podcast we have to get to.
Yes.
And it is called The Premature Ejaculation Count, brought to you by Nick Scarpino. Currently, we
forgot
have
about
two. There have been
Wait,
two.
what was the song?
Two
I gotta
premature
do the
ejac-
song.
I don't remember the song.
Didn't it have a squirt in it?
It's
I think
squirt.
squirt was in there somewhere.
Squirt.
right?
Or
Ew,
something
I
like that.
hate this.
Ew. I'm sorry, audio listeners. I say it one more time. Squirt.
All I have written down is the current count is 2, and there's an honorable mention for Lonnie. But like, I don't know what that all means. But I don't think there was any premature ejaculation in this film.
We don't know. We cannot confirm nor deny that. We do know that Lori watched them go upstairs, as Michael watched Lori watch them go upstairs.
Yeah.
And we finally, for the first time in like an hour of this movie happening, get the piano tingle, Ding-a-ling-a-ling, which I love.
Yeah,
And they didn't use it again.
didn't.
I'm like, well, cool, guys. Thanks
Cool.
for ruining all my
Fine.
touchstones to this franchise.
My brain blocked out this segment.
I think you might have been asleep at this point.
Yeah, I
No,
do
this-
want to know
this-
at what point, at least you were like, I'm out in this movie.
I think it was around after like the dinner date.
It was in the midst of his killing spree. Because I had to tell her, she was like, "What happened?" And I was like, "Well, did you see him kill all those people?" And she was like, "Who?" So
Oh.
The two wake up the next morning. Actually, Corey wakes up first and takes his Halloween mask back because now he's going to be the killer. Laurie heads to Lindsay's bar to tell her she saw Michael's eyes and Corey's eyes. And Lindsay introduces Laurie to Jeremy's dad, who is still trying to cope with the loss of his son, albeit a lot better than the mom did. And he says, "Listen, man, I went through this whole thing where I hated this kid, but a part of me was like, I don't want to hate you anymore. So I saw him walk in, and I wanted to just pull him over and tell him I forgive him, and let's reconcile that. But when this kid looked me in the eyes, it wasn't him anymore. It was someone else. And that was a creepy ass scene. I was like, that's fucking cool. Let's go. Everyone deserves to die."
Has
And then
there
we-
ever been, or maybe, I guess has there ever been this much emphasis on Michael Myers' eyes? Am I just not remembering?
Yeah, well, Loomis always would be like talking about how
Yeah, they were
dark
dead.
they are
It's
and
dark.
shit.
Yeah. Shark's
Okay.
eyes. And that was from Jaws.
Black like nose.
Shark's
he said
eyes.
like a
Tim.
shark. He said,
doll's
could you
eyes.
imagine if Quint goes black like a shark's eyes?
The doll's
Yeah,
eyes.
no
Sorry.
shit,
I got the
Quint.
quote wrong. Jaws. You're like, Quentin, it is a shark's eyes. Sorry. Yeah, I'm mixing my movies up here. Let's go back to talk about It Follows. Anyway, Dr. Mathis and Nurse Deb come home for a little late night spooning session as a hey, congratulations on this promotion that I gave you because I'm a shitty boss and an even shittier doctor and man. And then, despite the fact that Deb has clearly already showered and is very well dressed, he's like, "Why don't you get in there and shower again? Because why not?" And then he gets stabbed to death in the grotto. and then
Grotto.
and then Corey attacks her, but he can't get through a small window of plate glass. And so, spoilers, guess what, guys? These two characters have seen the movie Scream, and they go, "What's better than one killer? Two killers." Michael Myers waiting in there and just fucking pins her to the wall, which you gotta hand it. It's just an awesome
good
video.
callback.
Halloween, baby.
Come on,
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Bah, right? Like,
But
stay
it's
in
crazy
there.
that it took getting to this point in the movie to have like any sort of like theatrical fun kill callback anything. It's like what we're like over an hour into the movie.
You'd think there'd be a couple more in there for us, but
We do get a couple more, and there's one coming up that I'm extremely excited.
Wait,
to
like I
talk
said,
about.
Michael killed her, right?
yeah, he stabbed her to the wall. He pinned her to the
No,
wall.
because
Like he did.
the thing I remember that I loved about he stabs it and then he takes a step back and he looks at his work.
Yep.
Yeah.
He goes, yes,
Which he
still
did. He
got
did in
it.
the first one.
Still got it.
Well, no, but he did that. He did that in the first one as well. So that was
Yeah.
like the direct. It was really cool.
Well, he loves his theatrics. He loves his theatrics. He wants to set a scene.
Theatricality and deception. That's why they said it.
He hasn't bathed in 3 years.
He's a
He
stinky
probably a
boy.
little stinky pinky,
It's
but
a sewer.
yeah, there's a lot of free flowing water down there with the rats
Yeah.
and stuff. They bring you food. They're your friends.
Yeah.
Anyway, Corey rides his motorcycle with Allison on the back, and these two make a cute couple. Too bad she's gonna have to kill him one day, real soon. Over at WURG 94.9, they hang out on the roof because that's where Corey used to go back in the day, and wonder if he can climb that huge radio tower. FYI, don't forget about the tower, the cell tower, or the radio tower. That's gonna come back into play in a weird ass way later.
I will say that a couple of us brought up how the beginning of the movie we had to question, like, is this Halloween? Like, is this the right movie? And I think it's because it opens with the radio station. stuff.
WKRP
And it's like,
Yeah.
Yep.
This
Yep.
is not at all what anyone could have ever bet the opening of a Halloween movie would be. And it's kind of weird. And I feel like they only did any of the radio stuff to get to the radio kill, which is
Get the
easily
kill.
the best kill
Well,
of this whole
And that
movie.
also is what makes it feel like a period piece too.
Yeah, that people are listening to the radio.
Yeah. Well, the way that he was talking just made it feel like not like current.
Yeah.
The shock
Like
jocks from like
ACK some or
1990s.
whatever.
Yeah.
What's interesting though is I actually thought this was another one of those missed opportunities because this speaks 100%. And this guy is the guy that's like the voice of the community, and he's the one ramping everyone up with the conspiracy theories. When you listen to what he's saying, he's like, Michael Myers did this and yada yada, and Laurie Strode's the devil and all this stuff. And so I was like, oh, this Willie the Kid character could have been a pivotal character in this, but he's only in one scene and then has the most gruesome death ever, which we'll get to in a second.
So so you mentioned the radio tower. Maybe I just not remembering, but where does the radio tower come back into play?
When she's driving away, and goes, my grandmother's crazy and thinking that my new boyfriend is a killer. She looks up and sees the radio tower on fire and goes, oh my God, Corey's a psychopath. Which is, you want to talk about leaps? You're like, what?
Yeah. No, she just won. She 180s off camera on about it.
Yeah,
I didn't
it's-
even pick up. See, the whole thing is like they had this scene, and he's like, I used to climb that enough. So I was like, oh, this all started because a kid fell to his death. He's going to fall off that to his. They're setting all this stuff up.
That's where
I
it's
was
gonna end.
Clearly, the junkyard grinder is going to come back into play.
Yep.
And then this is going to be his fate. And then I guess I missed it or whatever, but I was like, and they never acknowledged it again. And I was like, why did you make such a big deal about that being important to him?
You probably missed it because Frank calls her in the car and says, hey, your grandma called in a suicide call. Like, get back there. Which you're like,
Yeah.
okay, that's a lot. But as she's doing that, she looks up and sees a building on fire. And there's a lot of things that they throw at you at the same time, which is kind of crazy.
Seems unnecessary.
But before we get to that, I do want to shout out. I love the production design of this radio station. I love the neon lights. I love everything about this moment. And again, you want to go back to it being very, very much like Drive. It is a beautifully shot. A lot of the shots in this movie I thought were really well done. And I'm a sucker for just a neon sign on a radio station. Come on, it's great.
Light neon.
It's a pretty easy get for me. Anyway, Corey wants Allison to leave town with her, and he says, I think you're scared. You don't have enough bandages to keep me together, which is very true. And then Willie the Kid comes out and tells them all to get out of there and taunts Corey and Allison with his wild conspiracy theories. And it looks like Willie has to meet my old friend The Shape, a.k.a. Michael Myers, a.k.a. the man who pins people to the fucking wall with a rusty kitchen knife, a.k.a. Mike. As some of his friends call him.
Just Mike. Yeah.
Some of his friends.
The Rat King.
Mike Myers, definitively different than Michael Myers situation.
What if this movie was called My Friend Mike, and it's just about Corey's relationship to Mike, and they just hang out, and they're both misunderstood? I thought that would have been cool, too. October 31st. Oh, sorry. Corey's mom tells him to leave and then slaps him and then kisses him on the mouth. And you're like, what's happening, ma'am? Excuse me, this is inappropriate. And then
The whole mom thing is weird because she gets real mad that he's texting someone.
she's
and
very, very codependent.
It's very Carrie.
Very
Yeah.
Carrie.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, I
it's
think they're
also-
trying to establish that she's a kind of abusive.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
abusive.
But then it's weird because none of that factors into
At all.
anything.
it's like there's too many threads, right? Either he is corrupt because he grew up in a dark place, or he's corrupt because the town turned against him for an accident that he had no control over.
Yeah.
Like you can't when you have all these things, you're confused.
Yeah.
None of them
why
are developed.
He's doing what he's doing. Yeah.
Well, the mom, but if we didn't have the mom, we wouldn't get the best line in this entire movie because Corey's like, what the fuck was that? I can't deal with this woman who's clearly abusive. And then turns to Ronald, who is sitting in his Barca lounger, and just says, I hope you find love. And it's so sad.
Love Ronald.
And that's it. That's all he
He
says.
has some
in the
great
scene ends.
lines. About, like,
Ronald.
don't tell her about the motorcycle. Like
Yeah.
just
Don't tell your mom about
some
the
banger
motorcycle.
lines.
October 31st, it's Halloween night now. Lori finds Corey the next day sleeping in the same spot Jeremy did. I guess this is November 1st. I don't know. I can't remember. And she tells him,
We gotta talk about it, Nick. Like Lori waking up Corey by like leaning back in the chair
Yeah,
and banging it
awesome.
until he finally knows was so cool.
That
That's
was
like fun. Like, oh, here's like the 2018 Lori back.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna fuck with this kid.
she's
'Cause
ready.
I
She's
know he's evil.
activated.
Oh, it was so cool.
She tells him, of course, there's two types of evil. An external force, and then one that lives inside of them, like an infection. And she's like, I want to help you. And he says, he's like, listen, you can't help me. There's no helping me. And then if I can't have Allison, no one will. He says, you want to help Allison? Let her live her life. She has me now. You should give in. You should surrender to that feeling. You should have surrendered to that feeling the first time you ever looked into his eyes. You secretly hoped Michael comes back for you, don't you? I'm the psycho. You're the freak show. And then Corey heads to Michael to take his mask and push him down and break his hip. And it's just like a weird scene. Like, what the fuck is wrong with Michael, man? Get this guy some protein or something. Like he needs a banana.
He has no vitamin D.
He's having an issue here.
He's been in this hole for 4 years.
He has been in his hole. Thank you,
He's
Chris.
scurvy.
Later that night, the band bullies come back to find their car keyed with the word psycho on the hood. Lori tries to talk Allison out of going with Corey, but Allison won't listen because she thinks her grandma is just like trying to all out past trauma is just coming back up. Band bullies chase Corey back to the junkyard, where they try to fuck with Corey's motorcycle, but Billy gets a drumstick through his eye instead, and all hell breaks loose. Payback time. Corey runs over Margot. First, poor Margot's like, I don't like any of this, and then she gets run over on the chain link fence. It's horrible.
But it's also great because it's the perfect. It's like run to the right.
Just
There's
go to the right.
So any other places to go. They do this. They do the Prometheus thing or whatever, where they're just running in a straight line.
And again,
as all of you are talking about this, are you falling in love with this movie?
No.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I love this movie. I think this movie's great. I think you should watch the last hour that you missed when you were sleeping, Elise.
Well, should I watch at least the final scene that y'all were talking about earlier with Lori and Michael?
Yeah.
You should watch from this point on. From like the point where Margot gets like just fast forward and you see Margot hanging off the opposite side of a gate like it's an old NES
Once
movie.
it becomes a horror movie again.
or a game, rather.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's some deaths you need to see.
Because this point on, everything gets a
Okay.
little bananas, which is great. But again, James, to your point, this is the one thing about the band nerd. If I can break it down for everyone, take a break because I'm going to tell you some real truth right now. Okay, the band nerd is the perfect creature. The one fallacy, the one weakness that we have, Joey, is we just do not know our physical limitations. We don't know that we shouldn't be trying to climb a chain link fence. I know now, after years of actual physical activity, there's no fucking way I'm getting over that fence with a barbed wire. You got to run to the right, everyone. Always run to the right.
I thought you were gonna say a band nerd can only turn 90 degrees when a whistle blows. Because they're always marching, and then
That would have been a better joke. Anyway, the way this rolls out is this just chaos. Poor Ronald gets a shot in the eye because, to James's earlier point, you don't put a gun in a band nerd's hand. We don't have to fucking shoot guns. Anyway, the kid.
You keep saying we. Like I know that you relate, but I just hate it, Nick.
Because I know you're a band nerd too. Don't I love
Still.
that you haven't chimed in at all that you used to play trumpet in the marching
played
band,
trumpet.
Tim.
I wasn't a marching band though. I didn't do the marching stuff.
Yeah.
I
See
just
how he
sat in the
lies?
chair.
See how he lies?
Occasionally
marching
stood.
is different.
I didn't have that.
Let's
I
be
think
clear.
he's marching
Most
around
people
on a
were
field.
in.
I don't think that's a Tim Geddes
Yeah.
thing.
Most people were in bands.
I was in a-
Not
yeah,
most
in
people were in marching bands.
But
I was in
difference. The
band, but not
option of
marching
being in
band.
marching band, we didn't have that. So maybe if I did, I would have.
Like my band
But then
career
there's also-
peaked in front of a Molly Stones during Christmas time playing Ukrainian bell carol.
Hell yeah.
Oh, I learned about color guard a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
How would you say that in the band universe, and how did those intermingle?
I mean, definitely the color guard was an integral part of the marching band. They were usually the ones that,
Oh, they were
that
cooler,
danced and
though,
turned
They were
the flag.
together.
Not in my school, the color guard.
Flags.
We had two. Okay, I'll break it down for you guys. Thank you for asking. This is a very
Thanks,
important
Elise.
question. I
Great.
think that
Awesome.
I think
Great.
that everyone in the live chat right now who supports us on Patreon deserves to understand this information. Tim, where are you going? No, this is not the time for a pee
Nick,
break.
can you get me a Diet Coke?
This is not the time for a pee break, Tim. At my school, we had the marching band, we had the color guard, and we had the drill team. And the drill team you had to audition for. They tended to be. It was harder to get into the drill team, but everyone else who was capable was in the color guard. And the color guard had flags. They were the one that spun the flags and all that stuff. The drill
They
team
have
just
those
danced.
like wooden rifle things
They
too?
did do that sometimes, but that was only if the theme of the show called for it. And we weren't all about that life. We were all about. We did a show. It was Sting and the Police themed. And if you think that's weird for a marching band to play, you would be
Was
correct.
this like during a football game?
We used to compete in competitions, so we
Oh,
would play the field show during the
Why
football.
am I asking more questions?
Because you're fascinated by this life, and you want to know what takes a normal a well-adjusted young man and turns him into a superhero of a marching band. Drill, yeah, exactly, and that's
It
that's
says
what it
here
does.
Corey and Allison go on a dinner date.
All right, back to the plot. Man, these deaths, Elise, you got to watch at least this one because this is one of my favorite deaths in the
Okay, I
entire
will.
Halloween series. Margot is pinned underneath a tow truck.
to Margot.
She's pinned underneath a chain link fence that's pinning her. It was a tow truck, right? And she's crying for help. And then Terry's like, "I'm gonna save you. I'm gonna save you." And then Corey grabs Terry and fires up a spot welder and welds his face, but you see it in the foreground, so it's out of focus, and his whole face just lights up, and he screams for a second before it's just he dies. And then Corey walks over to Margot and just stomps her fucking head in like it's a pumpkin, and it's very, very horrifying. We're back, baby. From there, he heads home to kill dear old mom, and then over to WKRP Cincinnati to bash Willie the Kid's face into the record player, and then cut his tongue off, which proceeds to spin on the record player. And I love this because people who are listening to the radio and the rest of the town hear it. They hear the record skipping because Willie's tongue is hitting the needle. Crazy.
Again, great kills.
Great kills.
There's great kills in this whole section, but it's just none of it really feels like it makes sense now. And I would have rather seen Michael Myers doing it. I think, I feel like a better version of this movie is him unwittingly unleashing Michael Myers on all these people that have wronged him, and then having to like basically come to terms with that and see, are you going to turn to be a villain, or are you gonna was this worth it?
Like
That's
him being the
Great.
puppet master, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't say it's an accident this time.
Yeah.
You cut a man's tongue off. It's a hard thing to accidentally do.
I loved this death though. Like I think this is my favorite
Best death in the whole movie.
of the movie, and it's because it did have those layers or like levels of what you're talking about. Of like it was gruesome to see, like him like actually get the hit, then seeing the tongue on the thing, it going around like it's funny, but then to get the cutaway of hearing the effects of people listening, it's like this is just good.
Very cool. Very cool.
Cutting to Allison hearing this and seeing the tower burning and like, oh fuck.
We cut back over to the Strode house where Laurie is desperately trying to get a hold of Allison, while Allison desperately tries to get a hold of Corey, but no dice. So Laurie heads up to the study in a very sad moment to pour one out for herself, and then calls in her own suicide. She takes out a revolver, that same cool snub nose, it doesn't have the hammer, it's a cool looking revolver, and she puts it up to her head. And as we kind of dolly back from the door, we hear a shot. And we see what looks like brain matter splatter onto the wall. And who should walk in? Corey. He's been there the whole time. What does he find, Tim? Laurie Strode holding the fucking gun in his face. She's like, did you really think I'd kill myself?
Think I'd kill myself? And it's like, let's
good.
fucking go. Fuck everyone up, JLC.
Lord.
We love you.
There's a reality where another chocolate milk multiverse reality where Laurie Strode just takes a fucking machine gun to this entire town, and I'm all for it, man. I love
Goes
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Terminator 2.
Absolutely. Terminator 2 Judgment play. She puts 2 rounds on Corey's shoulder and then empties the rest of the rounds into the wall. She says, you came here to kill me, so do it. But Corey is hip to her game. He's like, uh-oh, wait, if I kill myself, Allison will be lost to you forever. And he says, if I can't have her, and then he stabs himself right in the neck. And she's like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. And then, of course, tries to stop it. But in the worst of the time thing, of course, this I didn't write it down here, but Allison saw the tower on fire, got a call from Frank, was like, oh my God, my grandma's not crazy. I got to go save her or whatever. And then walks in. Oh, no, sorry. Walks in, sees her with the knife, and goes, oh my God, my grandma just killed the love of my life. I got to get the fuck out of here.
I've
Jumps
known
in her
for
car.
4.5 days.
It just drives me crazy though, because none of these puzzle pieces fit together. Like, number one, nothing about this built. The scene plays it like Laurie is going to kill herself to the audience, and you're like, whoa! Even with like the pumpkin or whatever, you're like, well, this is completely coming out of nowhere. But it was a weird trick to trick him,
right?
Which doesn't really make sense. Just so that way they could pay off the cool moment of her saying her badass line, right?
Which makes sense.
But it's unearned.
Cool.
And then he gets defeated immediately, and then he goes, if I can't have her, no one will. So then he stabs himself, which just means that she won't have her.
Usually that's like I'm gonna kill her.
Well, I think he heard. I think he saw or heard the car outside and was like, "That's got to be Allison." So I'll time this perfectly where it'll look like she's killed me or whatever, which is odd.
Except that it didn't
Odd's a
look
good
like
word.
that. Yeah, except that it didn't look like that at all, right? Like he's lying on the ground and she's standing like 5 feet away.
Yeah,
Well,
she's
no, when
on
she-
him holding the knife because
Yeah,
she pulled the
when
knife
she-
out of his throat.
Yeah,
He-
she has
so
blood on her
she-
hands
She,
and all
he-
that stuff.
she had just
I know.
stabbed him.
But that's what I'm saying, though. He stabs himself and he's on the ground, and then she is also
He runs
understanding
over, yeah.
what he's doing because he just explained what he's doing. Goes down and does the thing everyone's supposed to do when you're stabbed with a knife in the throat, which is pull it out and hold it up to your face.
Yeah.
Just in time. Like
Give
it's
it a
just
little lick.
so
Yeah.
clunky.
It's so clunky.
So clunky.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't.
also,
Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I also don't know why Laurie actually calls in a suicide. Like, you could have just faked the phone call and Corey could have heard that. Like, I don't know why this actually needs to be a phone call.
I don't know why either, other than just to add a little bit of tension to a scene that has none.
I got the
So
vibe that
Frank
she wanted
shows
the
up?
cops to come, right? Like she wanted people to be going to the house because she
maybe.
knew.
Oh,
But-
maybe.
I don't know.
But you could have just. Yeah, I guess
just
that's
talk
true.
to Frank, you know.
Because
yeah,
that
Michael
heat,
Myers
that
is
hot,
here.
hot
This
heat.
is just her booty. This is actually booty calls Frank.
Yeah.
Of course, I think there's an added double whammy here, and I could be wrong. Someone could fact check this, but I think this is the exact spot that Judy Greer died in the house
At the
earlier.
bottom of the stairs.
Bottom
she
of the stairs.
upstairs?
She's in the attic, right?
Oh, I thought I
No,
could.
Wasn't it a different
Judy
house?
Judy Greer dies in Michael's room in his house.
Okay, never mind then. I'm totally wrong. I will take back that double whammy.
But didn't someone dies at the bottom of the stairs?
I thought they did. I thought that's where
Evil.
the.
I think you're thinking.
Or
of
was it the
Evil.
boyfriend?
right.
No, boyfriend
Evil.
he gets killed at the top of the stairs. He gets stabbed through the throat with the.
And then like stumbles down, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
It's all
Allison gets her
clunky.
leg
We're trying
broken
to
at the
find
bottom.
something that
It's also
isn't
it's
there,
also
I
a
think.
different house. It's also a different house.
That's true.
They're not living in Michael's house.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm
That
gonna go
house
ahead
is
and strike that
condemned.
from the record. That was just a bad
Yeah.
call on my part.
Yeah.
I will think before I speak next
Objection sustained.
time. Tim. Lori checks her revolver. It's still empty, and then she hears something moving in the next room and goes, "Uh-oh, spaghetti-o." We see Michael take his mask back, which is a hype-ass moment, and then he reaches for his knife, but Corey stops him. He's still alive, and for his trouble, he's like, "You need to help me," and Michael's like, "You know what, kid? There can be only one Michael Myers." And he just snaps this fucking kid's neck almost clean off. When you see it, it's like he spun the head almost all the way around, like almost pulled it off. And it was just horrifying to look at. And of course, Laurie's like, "Oh shit, it's going down." She locks herself into the cupboard or whatever as Allison drives away. She stops dead in her tracks when she sees the radio tower on fire and gets a call saying like everything's going crazy. And she's like, "Oh no, I got to go back and help Grandma Laurie." Of course, Laurie's hiding in the cupboard. While Michael is like, "Oh, we've done this dance before." Again, another homage where she's staring out throughout slacks at Michael, and it's like an homage to the first one. And then, boom, Tim, let me stop you, okay? We did another great series called Rocky.
Yes,
right?
we did.
And there's a wonderful moment at the end of Rocky 2 where Apollo Creed just says, "Can we get in the ring one more time? Can we get in the ring one more time? Because you won with 10 seconds or 2 seconds left, and that is very difficult for a man of my ego to deal with. We got to go back one more time, ladies and gentlemen. This is round 3, Strode versus Myers. Holy shit, they are throwing each other around this goddamn kitchen like there's no tomorrow. And I'll tell you what, stunt double for JLC here, taking a lot of hard hits.
Yeah.
Just getting thrown through plate glass, getting thrown into the kitchen. We have that wonderful moment in the trailer where Michael Myers turns on the garbage disposal and starts putting her hand down there, which is the worst thing you could ever do.
Tons of references to other Halloween movies, canon and not canon, in the kills and sequences here. Like she gets stabbed with the knitting needle, which she did to him in the original movie, and then the garbage disposal thing, if I remember correctly, is from Halloween H2O, where somebody actually
with Josh Hartnett.
And with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
It's funny that you mentioned that, guys, because of course I watched The Faculty last weekend, also starring Josh Hartnett, and I was like, was he in a Halloween movie? And you guys just confirmed that for
He's
me.
supposed
Thank
to
you.
be her son,
Yeah.
right?
Introducing.
Correct.
He was introducing Josh Hartnett in that movie.
Did now a question for you, James? Did he still have that weird ass haircut that he rocked throughout the entire '90s and early 2000s?
I
Where it was
believe he
it was
did.
like pinned
was
down
kind
in
of
the
a
front
bowl cut,
and then
right?
blown out in the back, like
Yeah.
it was like a duck.
Blown out.
You know, we mentioned Men in Black 3 earlier, and I always felt like he should have been the young Tommy Lee Jones. You see a picture of the two of them side by side, it's like a time portal opened.
I will make sure Josh Brolin knows that. I will note that for Josh Brolin next time I talk to him.
Thank you.
Let's see. They go home. They fight like crazy, and then it ends up. She ends up pinning his hand to the butcher block, and then she pins his other. She mounts him, which is great, smart move. Uses her leg to pin the other hand, grabs another butcher block. Boom, Jesus. He's a metaphor for Jesus right here. And then she just totally fucking was like, I gotta pin his feet down somehow, and I'm out of big knives. So what do I use? The refrigerator, of course. Just a big old dead weight. Comes in and then takes his mask off.
So I need to stop you here because I don't remember the details of this, but before we saw this movie, Cool Greg comes up to me and he was just like, "Hey, I saw on Twitter that Jamie Lee Curtis frog splashes Michael Myers off of the refrigerator." Like, we're watching the movie and we see the fridge. We both lose our minds because we're like, "Is she about to fucking frog splash it?" But she doesn't do it,
No,
unfortunately.
she does not. She pins him and then she jams a knife right into his lungs, and so he actually starts bleeding out for the first time in the series. I think.
You're just a man who's about to stop breathing.
I love it. She goes, "I've run from you. I've chased you. I've tried to contain you, and I've tried to forgive you. I thought maybe you were the boogeyman. No, you're just a man who was about to stop breathing." And then she slashes his throat, but not before he rips his hand out of the knife, and it's all like segmented, and grabs her by the throat, and she's just like, "Motherfucker, do it.
Do
Like,
it.
Love it.
Do it. You want to do it? Do it." Of course, he starts squeezing, and she's like, "I welcome the sweet release of death." But of course, Allison comes home and stops him and pries the arm off. and is like, this ain't how this is gonna go down. She says, I'm not gonna let him do this to you. Together, they cut open Michael's wrist and then his throat, and he bleeds out, and they're just like gutting this guy like it's a pig. And then Frank comes. He shows up finally with the cops, and it's a gruesome scene. And he takes it and he says, Michael, and then Jamie Lee Curtis says he's dead. And then or actually, I think Allison says dead, and then Jamie Lee Curtis goes, not dead enough. But first, we got to parade this motherfucker throughout town so everyone can see that Michael Myers is dead, and all their fears and all their tension and all their anger is gone.
This the whole
Like,
kitchen
no
battle.
one knows that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. The whole kitchen. They could have had a mannequin or whatever. Like
It's just a random dude. These two women just slaughtered.
The interesting thing about this is that as cool as the sequence in the kitchen is, it still feels like a worse version of the thing from the first Halloween
100%?
movie
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
In the
The
trilogy.
first one was so
it's like,
cool.
It has the exact same moments where like, oh, you think she's running, but then she's fighting, and then there's a back and forth, and she had a plan. She always has a plan, and then her family, who has been at arm's length from her, helps, and it's only all of them working together that they're able to defeat this monster. Like, it's weird because it's good, but I've already seen it better
Right,
in
yeah.
the same franchise.
Yeah.
You know,
But at
and
least it
it's-
moves
so-
around. It moves at a fast clip. Because we're
Yeah.
just like, this is great. We're gonna get to the end, and no more one more scares. You know, if you think Michael's gonna come back one more time and grab it, it doesn't happen. But what I do love is this next scene, because as they're strapping Michael's body to Tim's Prius, one of the deputies goes, "This is not how it works." And then the sheriff from the last movie gets out of his car and he goes, "It does tonight." That it works
Yeah.
that way tonight, and they take him over to the junkyard. The whole town passes the body like Spider-Man from Spider-Man.
Oh my
over.
God, yeah.
And then they just
Yep.
put his ass in the pulverizer, and he
Spider-Man
just
2. That's Spider-Man 2.
it's yeah, it's fair
Boy,
enough. Fair,
Dr. was there.
important tip. It was Spider-Man 2. I was gonna say Matrix Revolutions, but it was like a which way do we go with it?
That's all like one guy be like, oh, he's just a kid.
It's just the kid, it's just the cook. And then they pulverize him, and man, you think, oh, it's gonna he's gonna pop back up one more. Nope, it's just a puff of blood that happens, and I'm like, well, I really do think we killed him this time.
Evil
guys.
died tonight.
I don't know if
We
there's
did
any
it.
coming back from
but
this.
you can now you can transfer the spirits through the
Yeah,
eyes. So.
Exactly, and so Corey's gonna come back.
finds a
Mark
new
my
shape.
words, they're gonna need some more money in a couple years. The next morning, Allison apologizes to her grandmother for not believing her, and Lori finishes her memoirs and says goodbye to her boogeyman. Allison leaves town for good, but the truth is, evil doesn't die; it just changes shape. Spoilers.
damn it.
And then Frank stops by to give her some fresh produce and thank her for her service to the town. And then as he's walking away, Lori stops him and asks him about
Give
those
her
cherry
some meat.
blossoms, and they sit on the stoop together. And then we get some eerie scenes from inside the house, which I think we did from the first one, right? That's how
This
the
is
first
an
one
homage
ended.
to the original movie, yeah.
And it's
Seems
great.
The empty rooms.
The empty rooms, which is always just such an odd and cool way to end a movie. And then the last scene is just all of her notes and all of her books and stuff, and Michael Myers' mask on the coffee table, and that is how it ends.
How Halloween ends.
Halloween ends.
Joey, do you know why I just got this?
I don't know. What did
No
Greg
idea.
do? What did he do?
He just
Greg Miller would like to airdrop you a photo, and it's just a picture that says "Lil Bitch."
Okay.
That's it.
He got you. He
So,
got you too.
What I hate about this is I haven't seen Greg today, and like
Yeah.
this is
No,
how
I saw him pop
this
in.
is how I learned that he's in the building.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
The thing is, if we just told Greg that the building's closed, he would stop coming. He would never check. He doesn't know how technology works.
Let's get to a segment I like to call, Elise, Haiku in Review. Do you remember the song?
7 syllables in the middle, 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, no need to fret it. Haikus don't have to
You
rhyme.
don't need to rhyme.
Haiku in review.
Perfect.
Haiku in review.
nailed it.
Ab- close?
Absolutely nailed
you
it.
nailed it.
Here's
you nailed it.
a haiku in review form from Matt Exposure, aka Madeline. She says, "There's a little two-parter for us.
Ooh.
Evil didn't die. Michael lives in a sewer, but he made a friend. Weirdly, a rom-com. He's crushed to death. Pretty cool. Halloween ended. There we go.
Halloween ended.
Sums it up.
Definitely does. So now we have three three more segments for us to rank things here. I'm going to start with therapy for you and me. If you don't remember, Therapy for You and Me is where we rank the therapists. Dr. Zartan
right.
is number 1. The doctor that got Need is number 2. And Dr. Loomis is number 3. It's not a therapist. We do get a doctor.
Dr. Mathis.
We do have a
Mathis.
doctor. Yeah,
We got
he's
Dr.
pretty
Mathis.
Scummy.
I think he
He's
goes to the
banging
bottom.
his nurse.
Yeah.
I'll put him at the bottom. This guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Great house, though. I will say that.
Dope house.
Dope house.
Dope.
Yeah.
Well,
Right? Like,
I
can you imagine
think
the
we were
barbecues
ranking
you
them
could have
as-
with that?
Weren't we ranking them based on like
How bad they
were?
are, so he would be
Yes,
higher?
I would
I
put
mean,
him at
this-
number 2.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
he didn't unleash
Evil.
He's a misogynist, yes,
Yeah.
but he did not unleash an evil upon the city.
But he
other
did
than
give
probably
someone a promotion
pay
that he was
discrepancies.
having a
And he
sexual
was
affair with.
like
And
harassing
to
his
be fair-
employees.
That's true.
To be fair, we only saw Allison's perspective. We don't know. I mean, most of the time I saw her, she was on the back of a motorcycle not wearing a helmet. Maybe she was supposed to be at work. Maybe she was supposed to be doing other things. We don't know his story.
I mean, you're saying a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You're saying a lot of stuff.
I
that is
will
true.
say, as harassment, obviously bad. He's not trying to unleash a murderer.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
hold on.
yeah.
I want to clarify something that even looking at this list, I don't know. This is not Ragu Bagu. This is not us ranking the bad guys. This is us ranking the therapists.
Yeah.
Which I don't remember
correct.
if we were ranking them in terms of they're good or bad.
I think we make
they
the
were
rules.
good.
Were they good? Okay, the next guy's got to go dead last.
Well, but then if Dr.
Who's number
Loomis
one?
is at the
No,
bottom,
no.
I feel like then
No,
we're
'cause-
ranking them by
'cause
the
the doctor
worst.
from 2018 who unleashes Michael and wants to be Michael was number 1 because
Okay,
he ranks
so that's
as a way
Zartan.
worse
I just don't
person
know
than
who
Loomis
Zartan
was.
is.
That's Sargent.
Okay, then.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
good.
Zartan.
You guys are correct then.
Because
It
then
is-
Loomis was just like, I'm trying to like kill this guy that I know is evil. Like,
So
that's
then
all
I
Loomis
think
is
he
trying
should
to
go
do.
above Loomis then.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Loomis
fair
is the
enough.
best one.
Loomis was a good
Yeah.
was a good dude.
Cool.
I don't remember anything about the doctor that got Need, if I'm being honest.
That must have been kills.
Yeah.
Oh, like in the hospital?
Yeah. There's a doctor who just gets full on need by the mob.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
that's what it was.
Yeah, oh,
Okay,
right,
so then
right,
this
This
guy's
is number
yeah,
2.
yeah.
This-
yeah,
yeah.
Chris is right.
Okay.
This guy's
okay.
number 2.
James is absolutely correct about everything. Boom. There we go. Now, it's time for Ragu Bagu. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Ragu.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Bagu. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Right Guys Talk Bad Guys here on Halloween in Review. Tim, take it away.
Currently, number 1, we have Michael Myers from Halloween Kills. Number 2, we have Michael Myers from 2018. And number 3, we have Michael Myers from Halloween 1978. Where do we want to put
Sexy Corey. Sexy
Sexy
killer.
Corey and Michael?
Why is he sexy
Double
Corey?
I just threw it out there to see how it felt, Joey. It didn't feel right. We'll dial it back. It's not a big deal.
Are they being introduced this as a duo or individually?
Well, they're at
Duo.
odds
We're
by the end of
ranking the
film.
duo against
Okay.
the
all right.
other ones.
I
It's
mean,
got to
this
be
is the
real
bottom
low.
for me.
I think
It's got to be the
last.
bottom for
I
me.
think it's
because
bottom.
not
It's pretty
Michael
last.
Myers.
It's pretty last, and
Right?
I'll tell you why. Because for a movie that should revolve around the killing, we don't get an awful lot of that. And what we do get is interesting. But I wanted more. I wanted there to be a little bit more reasoning behind what's going on here, and I wanted to feel that transition with Corey devolving into the darkness a lot more. And we just don't get it. We get him playing at being a killer, and honestly, not very good at it until the very end. But I guess everything takes practice.
Couple cool deaths, but honestly, that doesn't save how bad the bad guy's story is in
Right.
this. So yeah, I think it's last. Does anyone have a case that it's not last?
No.
Motion passes.
The motion passes. And now it's time to rank the Halloween movies. Currently, we have Halloween 2018 at number 1, Halloween Kills at number 2, and Halloween 1978 at number 3. Where do we want to put Halloween Ends?
What's kills at?
We had
Kills
Halloween
2.
1978 at number 3. I mean,
I'll say it. I'm putting
think
this
we-
last.
I'm putting it last. Easily,
I
I'm putting
guess
it
I'm
last.
putting it last.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same.
Well,
Nick,
my
where would you
opinion
put
doesn't
it?
matter anymore. I would have put it a little bit higher because I found the movie interesting. I did, and our criticism, I believe, of the original Halloween was that it's not scary. It's very slow. It's very methodical, and that was made it for less of an entertaining movie. Now, when you judge it against the criteria of 2022, obviously, it's a classic. We love it, but it's kind of boring.
I think it attempts to build tension, though, in a way that this one just disregards for the most part.
Agreed. It's more of a horror movie, and it leans into and let's be honest, like set the tone for a lot of horror movies to follow, which is why it's always going to be a classic. This movie, I liked parts of it. I liked the way it was shot. I liked the overall vibe of it. It's just not a Halloween movie, which is weird. So I guess saying that, it's got to be last on my list for me.
So there we go. That's the end, and it's probably the end of Halloween in Review. I don't think that
Doubtful.
that another one's got. I mean,
Let's go back.
gotta
I think
make
they
another
only had
one.
3. I think Blumhouse only had 3.
Totally.
I think the rights revert
To someone else.
No, this is the end of this trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
What if
So-
we just go back and watch H2O just for fun? You know.
You know what, Joe?
Oh,
I'm
I
definitely
would love
down.
to.
Shout out to
H2O sucks. I've seen it not
But
too
is
long
it
ago.
is it a fun
H2O
bad
It's a
though?
good time though. It's a good time with friends. Come on.
Yeah.
What about Resurrection? Oh my God. The Michael Myers sewer stuff's from Resurrection.
I don't
Wow.
know if I've ever seen
Is it?
Resurrection.
Is it? Yeah. Isn't he hiding in the sewer?
don't
Like
remember.
his stories that he's been in the sewer and stuff, and then Busta Rhymes has a reality show? I don't remember. One day we
Yeah,
might get
I
to
think-
that
I
one.
think you're correct. Any martial arts, Michael Myers, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Gotta love it. Let us know in the comments below what you think of Halloween Ends. And hey, if you want to get on a motorcycle and just go out, let me know what color that motorcycle would be. All right? I'm gonna be looking through those comments, and I want to see some cool colors. Don't be boring. Give me something good.
Yeah.
But until next time, I love you all. Goodbye.